You, LiteratureDevil, and a couple others, like Mundane Matt was even one of them, who was on the alt-right list of YouTube.
The alt-right. Really?
Yes. Do you remember that? Like, LiteratureDevil was highlighted as alt-right on this big, long list of YouTubers.
I really don't get that. I don't think he's ever talked about politics aside from laughing at all the people reacting to Trump, just because that's what everyone's been doing the past 4 years. But he's never talked about
obviously,
politics.
he talked about social justice in media, and he's talked about, I don't know, what was it? Fuck, I what it's called now. Mary Sue's. That obviously makes him alt-right.
Oh, really? Because Mary Sue's are an actual pattern that we can observe from the 70s. Has been.
But there are people who think if you say Mary Sue at all of a sudden you're just some kind of sexist. Like, you just don't
because it's the name of a woman.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, I remember. What's her name? Daisy Ridley said,
Yes.
I actually find the term Mary Sue kind of sexist. There isn't an equivalent like a Gary Stew or a or a Larry.
No, she didn't say
Stew.
Gary Stew. She just said random male names.
That was like years ago, and she had no idea. Okay, actors aren't very smart.
She tried to defend her not being a Mary Sue by saying, "Oh well, Ray just wants to do the right thing." It's like obviously not understanding what a Mary Sue is. That doesn't just make them stop being a Mary Sue.
Well, there's a nuance to talking about these issues, and it's hard to find distinctively political plots, unless you're talking about what's that? Not HBO, is it Netflix, where it's about the presidency and maintaining the presidency and all the politics therein.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it's called because I don't.
I don't know much about it, but I think House of Cards.
There you go.
That something like that?
That's purely.
Or Designated Survivor, who's about the guy who accidentally became president because the White House or the assembly something blew up and killed a lot of important people.
But even then, those stories, they have a political backdrop and setting, but if you don't give us some drama, if you don't give us some reason, like even The West Wing, which I thought was very well written, but ultimately useless as a story, because all you're doing is just people at a job, which happens to be the White House, and they're talking about this and that bill that might be passed by the Senate or House. You're like, yeah, okay.
I mean, even if you now were to write a story specifically about a transgender person and them being transgender, it wouldn't be political. It would still be about the person's struggle with identity and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Even then, I think a big problem with like female characters and gay characters and any kind of inclusive character is that they don't actually make them characters, and that's one of the biggest problems and the reason why a lot of people object. They don't make them people, because, funnily enough, people aren't just X or Y trait. That you're not just gay person, which is a way they write a lot of these characters. Exhibit A, Bill Potts, I think her name is.
Yeah, Bill
from Doctor Who. She's just gay, and that's her only character.
Bill the
so
male,
that's one of the biggest problems.
Bill the male and or female stereotype. It's like insert random dice roll. Oh, we'll pick transgenderism. Fine, great. Like that doesn't really set you up as a traumatic character or anything. So always fun. Anyway, let's get started. We've got an hour to go. It's going to take some while. Welcome everyone. Good afternoon. This is Smudcast number 114. Captain America punching Nazis. Why comics were always political. Oh boy.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I think it's a soy boy who does this. I think you could see, you could tell that from the picture of his icon.
What would permit a man to want to do this for 1 hour? I don't know. There has to be a reason. Let's just actually find out what he's trying to say, because I'm sure it's gonna be a big history lesson, which I love. It's great. But if it's just that, it's like, they made comics about the war. Like, oh, okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, like a long time ago.
There was a war.
Not all comics are some comics are political. Not all comics are political.
Plus, people don't remember the comics where he was going out and it was all propaganda against Russia and all that. People remember the stories like Dark Knight. Or
Dark Knight
Dark Knight
Returns.
Returns, at least. Yes, that one.
Also, Superman. They remember all the Killing Joke. They remember the things that were not political, that just had good human drama in there. That just had good stories.
While at one point they were propaganda, people don't care about or remember the propaganda. That's not what made comics great. What made comics great were the stories which came after all the war shit.
All right, let's get going. This is going to take a while, so let's try and keep our comments brief. Unless they drive us nuts.
We are the Tangent Podcast. You're thinking we're going to be brief by any measure.
There's going to be another Goldman, isn't it?
No, the Goldman's a special case.
Haven't we covered part of this video? Like, we were intending to cover it, but we never finished it on
we started
nonsense.
There's like so much stuff. There's so much stuff that's wrong with it. Just kept pausing every few seconds.
There's too much retard.
Cringy opening, movie blob aesthetic.
Sound effects.
How are you doing, you wonderful nerds?
I hate that
Scott
opening.
here.
Yeah, it's
Quirky.
stupid.
Finally,
Quirky.
look, I've been busy. It's my first video back in.
This guy's quirky.
Jump cuts.
Or just don't do things like
Just don't.
quirk
Just
for
don't,
the sake
Chad.
of quirk.
Just don't.
You need to actually have a reason why you make a joke. You can't just be, oh look, I'm quirky. Look, I'm having a finger which is pointing down, and then it's the exact same room as before. I'm just pretending that the camera was a little bit too high.
Look, I'm not a professional. I mess up sometimes. Look, the camera was not even pointing at me when we began. Therefore, I'm quirky. Look, I'm kind of awkward. I'm an awkward nerd guy.
It's so random, guys.
A lot of this is just quirky for the sake of being quirky. You need to actually have a reason behind your jokes.
Or at least jokes should be funny.
I just want to do something fun, something lighthearted and simple, something for the whole family.
Oh, good.
What do you think, Scoob? Nah, I think I'll save that for the next video. Tell you what, let's see if there are any good suggestions.
That'd be hilarious if that wasn't a
does
joke.
my work for me. Why would I ever put effort into anything?
Like
NerdSync. Hey.
Like he went ahead and talked to Scooby-Doo. In his mind, Scooby-Doo was talking back. But to us, it seemed like a joke because obviously a toy dog is not going to talk to you. But maybe to him it does. That'd be interesting. That'd be a cool plot twist.
What does Scooby say? Destroy the child. Corrupt them all.
It's kind of like Adventure Brothers and the little Scooby-Doo gang spin-off spoof where Scooby-Doo can't actually talk. It's just the madness in Shaggy's head.
Oh yeah, I want to know what the political message of like cartoons from the 80s were like. What's the political message behind Scooby-Doo? Like what? I don't.
Message coming
What's
in.
the political message on this behind this jar of mustard?
Everything's political.
Something about animal abuse.
Oh.
Trump. The mustard is Trump.
Oh, Hitler had a dog. Scooby-Doo is a dog. Therefore...
Scooby-Doo like mustard.
You know who also had a tiger? Heimlich Himmler. And I'm not joking. And you know who also has tigers? Tiger King.
Tiger King.
You see? Huh?
All right, here's Dollface. Thank you,
Joe
Dollface.
Exotic.
The problem is any flaw you give diverse characters is, so you think all gays, blacks, women, etc. are like that. Also, hi, LitDev. Funny seeing you here.
Yeah, which is why they can't actually give any kind of personality to these characters.
Is that a high Rags joke? Because is LitDev the new Rags? I don't think so.
I guess so.
Come on.
I don't know. Devil's much better looking than Rags.
Do you think you could do a video comparing how comic book writers used to handle politics as opposed
Oh,
to these
boy.
days? There was obviously a right way of doing it, and I think more people should know it.
Well then. Goodbye, monetization. Politics in comics. What a rich topic. I love it. And chances are that you enjoy a healthy dose of politics in your comics as well.
Do I?
The very first
I don't think anybody
superheroes
does.
existed in the first place to take the law into their own hands and...
But, okay, Devil, just a quick question. If you picked up a comic and it was nothing more than saying how great Trump was every 5 minutes, and like the enemy was Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, would you seriously pick this up and think this is fantastic writing?
If it was a joke comic, because I bought one of those, but it was like it's supposed to be like straightforward, and like, oh yeah, this is making it all serious and stuff like that. It's like, no, that's pretty it's pretty cringe.
Didn't they turn Trump into what was it, Murdoch or something? Murdoch, whatever the big head thing.
Yes.
Oh yeah. In the actual comic books, they turned into Murdoch. Or no. Yeah, I forgot what his name is, but that big head thing guy. They also put his speech and made Red Skull say it, like speak his speech. So that's pretty cringe. But they use the other way around and not just praising Trump seriously, like it's not like a joke or anything. Then not lampooning it. That would also be pretty cringe. But I do like the joke comic books that are pro Trump and pretty much any joke comic book, as long as it's a joke and not take itself too seriously, it can be fun. But the main problem about these mainstream comic books, MODOK, that's it.
Oh, MODOK. Well, why did I think MODOK? I suppose it's similar.
But the main comic about the main problem with these mainstream comic books is that they're partisan politics. They're issuing out partisan politics, and they're doing it seriously and straightforward, as if this is the correct way to think. And if you think any other way, you're a bad guy. You're the villain.
There's no kind of nuance to it at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. There it is. Yeah.
There it is. Hello, Trump.
God, when I saw this in a comic, I was so taken out of it.
It's pretty cringy.
The only
It's like,
America
why?
will act.
yeah,
I think there's a Mark Waid
will.
thing. I think Mark Waid did that. I forgot.
The only comic I can think of that is actually has a setting which works with the plot as a political message, or a story rather, is Superman Red Sun. Like that is specifically like, what if Superman becomes communist and takes over the world? It's like, oh, that's totally political. That is a message. I get it. The thing is, they don't speak too much about the nuance of what it means to be a communist, or what it means to be the enemy is just America because they're capitalist, and that's it. Like that's the whole message. So there's no nuance. There's no like detail why it worked and why.
Well, I think it criticizes both America and Russia,
but not
to an extent, or at least the film does.
The film. You're right. There is a film. Yeah, but in relation to the comic, like there's no argument for or against. It's Superman's country, and he's in charge. That's it. There's really no.
Well, when there gulags and stuff in the actual continuity.
Superman does some really nasty crap, but that's because Superman does it.
I mean, like before Superman. Was it Stalin? It was before Superman,
it was during the period of Stalin.
Superman killed Stalin.
Yes,
Stalin had gulags in the comic, or at least in the movie.
Okay, I don't remember I don't remember the film or the animated film, but
the film changed a few things. Like they changed Wonder Woman and Superman's relationship, which makes his rampage at the end a little bit strange. That because he goes insane, or at least gets very angry,
right? Because
Wonder Woman says, "Yeah, we're friends. I'm sorry, we're not friends anymore. I'm going." And then he just goes crazy and he goes really upset. And then the whole enemy at the end of all of it is Brainiac. And Brainiac was a character which was brought in right in the middle of the film, and he's just Superman's supercomputer. It's weird.
Yeah, so the backdrop actually worked, but the thing is, it wasn't like a detailed, nuanced, layered story about politics. It just happened to use it as any other story would use any other element, the same way Mouse has a setting in Nazi Germany, World War II. But that's not what the story's about. Anyway, let's just keep going. It's going to take a while. Mark in 3D, remember the Trump cameo in the Death Note manga? Really?
Yeah.
When was that?
It was a new one. I guess it's a new one.
Oh,
and
okay.
Trump is the president of the United States, and he actually buys the Death Note for like a couple $1 trillion or something.
$1 trillion.
What?
That's awesome. Oh dear. That is a whole story. Oh, I want to learn about that.
What will be the first name Trump writes into that?
Hillary Clinton, probably. No. Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie O'Donnell.
Definitely Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh boy.
Injustices those in power weren't bothering to address. Superman fought corrupt politicians, abusive husbands, and greedy capitalists whose wealth was built on the backs of laborers forced into terrible working conditions that nearly killed them. Superman was a socialist. Wonder Woman was created specifically to help young boys get used to the idea of a powerful woman because the character's creator, William Moulton Marston...
One thing that I find funny is, to me, a story about a greedy capitalist being bad is not about politics. It's more about that person being bad because they're greedy.
Yeah, when Superman punched a bad guy, this guy sees him fighting capitalism. What actually happened in the comic books, probably, where there was a greedy businessman who was exploiting people, and he fought that bad guy. He didn't just take down capitalism, and he didn't punch capitalism, and then therefore he's a socialist. How is he a socialist?
Are they making the argument that capitalism is equated to American politics? Is that what they're trying to say? Socialism
I guess so.
and capitalism are economic theories, right?
Yes.
Yeah, communism and whatever you want to call the first world. Like, there's all kinds of parliamentary systems and republicanism and democracy and all these other flavors of it. Like, those are all external to economics. They're just systems of government. I don't...
Well, I think one thing a lot of people like this do is they take a topic, or they see a topic that is in some way, as minute as it might be, tangentially related to politics, ergo it's a political topic.
But to state that Superman is communist, like, what?
I mean, it also ties into the idea that everything is political.
No, but if you say, remember what Superman says? He says, "I fight for truth, justice, and the American way." Well, that's definitely not communist.
The American way is not socialist or communist.
No,
it's like on the opposite of that.
The concerning the everything is political, a lot of people I've encountered who believe that. They always argue that in some way, like it might be around 20 different corners, it's somehow related to politics, ergo it's political. And that's what I mean, like he does something quote-unquote against, Superman does something against capitalism. Capitalism is somewhere related to politics, ergo political.
Oh god,
message coming in
of guys in university who they always keep going back to their favorite. This reminds me when I was reading Leibniz. You're like, what? Like, stop talking about Leibniz, dude. Like, he never shuts up about it. That's sort of
yes, exactly that kind of argument.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Bogue, hey Bogue. Wonder Woman was created by a psychologist with an S&M fetish on a dare. There's a reason she loses her powers when she's tied up with her lasso. I did not know that. The original incarnation of Wonder Woman loses her powers when she's tied up. Maybe if she just touches the lasso, she's okay. But when she's tied up, ooh, interesting. Okay, good to know, Bogue. I'm glad you have this weird trivia about that because that's always cool. All right.
Believe would be leaders of the world through sexual liberation.
Young boys must learn this most of all if they are to grow up respecting powerful women.
The future is female, and this doesn't just apply to comics from the 40s. Many people online seem to be discovering for the first time that Watchmen, a profoundly political comic from...
Oh, one thing I could say is one of my absolute favorite thing is the adaptation of the saying "future is female" over to German-speaking countries like over here, because if you say "future is female" in German, die Zukunft ist weiblich. Future is grammatically also female, so basically it almost sounds like they're saying, "Hey, this female verb is female."
Ooh.
And I find that so funny.
Grammatically, you're like, yeah.
Checkmate, soy boys.
Well, you see, Germany is the most progressive because, you see, the future is female. There you go. We've heard it here first.
So
Hitler was far ahead of the rest of the world. He was the most progressive person.
So if you guys remember the story of the Watchmen, it's the basic idea is who watches these super powered guys or superheroes in general to police themselves. And it goes into eventually political stories, and it ramps up near the end as a political message. But the story itself is pretty much the mystery of who killed the comedian, I think.
Yeah, that's what begins it all.
Yeah.
Because it literally begins with his death. Like the little smiley face button that he wears is drenched in his blood. And then, it starts going off from there. The story begins from there.
So,
Can Story Boys please stop rooting things? I think we'd be all a lot better off if soy boys could just leave things alone.
And things get
That'd be good.
Yes.
political when we go to the scale of Dr. Manhattan, and then he is obviously part of the Manhattan Project. He gets transformed, and then the scale that Odysseus and him are working on becomes big, and he wants to affect bigger things, and that's what happens at the ending. So, yes, there are certainly political elements in there, but it's not inherently as a setting or as a plot about politics. So, anyway, Watchmen is one of the great comics everyone should read. It's probably the number one in terms of what to read in the entire comic book industry. It's a given, and you could read yourself and see what you get out of it. But I definitely didn't get politics as the underlying.
I wouldn't call it political.
No,
I wouldn't. It's basically the story is about involves a darker version of the heroes we know, how they would be more in like relatively real life. Some of them might be crazy. Some of them might be in there for the good work. Some of them might be in there for the fame. It's a gaggle of people. It's not like The Boys, where all the superheroes are bad. It's just like a mishmash of people in Watchmen. Some of them are good guys. Some of them are there like they're crazy, like the comedian. Some of them are just there for the fame and the glory and the attention.
yeah, and stories
Maybe arguably like Silk Spectre, the first one.
Yeah, and stories like The Boys have occurred in comics like every 2-3 years. There's always an incarnation of like the bad superheroes or the anti-villain or the anti-hero and their effect on society. And now just because of all the liberal-minded media and the various cancel culture and all how social media has changed the world, that's the focus of The Boys and corporatizing the world of superheroes if it could be done. That's their take on it, which is very interesting. I haven't watched it, but it sounds very interesting. So that could be seen as political, but I don't think that's inherently the message of The Boys, politics of this or that. It's media manipulation and having an image that is not real but is observed by the community. That's seen as, oh, this is what Homelander represents. He's like this theocratic kind of guy who believes American in God and this and that, and then there's all these other heroes that do their own shtick. So it's basically marketing and selling a product.
Yeah, when The Boys, it's basically marketing. They're basically celebrities. Superheroes are basically just celebrities in the Watchmen. No, I mean The Boys. But the Watchmen, you could ask what makes that political. What about the Watchmen is political? And they might say the war, but the war is not actually. The war takes place. Yeah, it was a very political time, a very politically charged time because you had the Vietnam War going on. You had a bunch of communism versus capitalism going on. America versus Russia, America versus the Iron Curtain, and the March of Communism, the Red States coming up. That was all going on at that time. But Watchmen does not really take that into situation. It's not a communist plot to kill things. It's not a communist anything. The backdrop of the war is why Ozymandias is putting together his plan so that he can make world peace through his unusual plan, his unusual methods.
Yeah, we would argue that The Dark Knight, Frank Miller, is more political just because there's more elements of it, but it doesn't mean the overall story is about that. So
I would say Dark Knight Returns is more political than Watchmen because Watchmen is almost not political at all. They just use the war and the presence of politics in America during that time as a way to create a conflict for everything to spark, because that's why everything goes into motion, because of the war and the conflict that is threatening. It's not the war itself; it's the threat, the ever-looming threat of destruction of the world because of nuclear retaliation between Russia and America. So you had that was the theme of that: destruction, power, more power than we can handle. We mere humans cannot comprehend this power, and so we went to war. And this ever-looming. In fact, remember the Doomsday Clock? That's sort of why the symbol of Watchmen is that clock, because they go back to the Doomsday Clock, which means 5 minutes till midnight, which means 5 minutes till the world ends, because everyone just launches nukes. It's actually a thing that they go back to over and over and over again throughout the piece, and that's kind of what the idea is of Watchmen. That's kind of what it is. It's about the ever-looming destruction because of nuclear annihilation. It's about a conflict that's raging on, that's threatening to destroy the world. So basically, it's the age-old dilemma of the world is in danger, The world is going to be destroyed. How do you save the world? And ironically, all the heroes, quote unquote heroes in Watchmen, aren't really concerned with that. To them, the war is just kind of happening in the background. They're more concerned with the quote unquote mask killer that Rorschach comes and puts into play. Ozymandias is the one who is actually trying to diffuse the war, and he's put his plan in place. So it's not about politics. I mean, there's nothing like being said to you other than war is bad. It's like TLJ, but there's no politics being told to us. None at all. The backdrop is political. The backdrop of America during that time Watchmen is set in, yeah, there's a lot of politics there. It's very politically charged, but the story itself is just a story about the world being in danger and a guy trying to save it, while other people mess around and run around. We see all these strange themes and weird backstories unfold, and these events unfold.
The Watchmen TV show is
that one's political.
Very strange and political, and suddenly the world, like the cops can't use their guns, they're all locked, and that gets a lot of them killed. It's so dangerous for cops, they have to wear masks. It's very much about like white supremacism, like a cult of Rorschach has risen up, and now they're like really racist for
some reasons.
I don't know.
There's kind of hand-fisted white supremacy in there for some reason.
It has
was Rorschach in some way racist?
I think he just hated everybody.
Okay.
He's the dark side of Batman.
They said, well, I have a nose for white supremacy, and he smells like bleach. Just attacking someone and locking them up without provocation, just because you feel like it. That's great. That's fantastic.
All right. Let's keep going here. Joe Crazy, set my N-words. Just got on. So what I miss? Pretty much Superman is communist, and that's it. That's all you missed.
The 80s, in fact, it's got some. There's some politics in there. Rorschach was intended as a joke, and Dude Bros didn't get it. But what did this tweeter person and the countless others who I've seen echo?
Wait.
Joke, and Dude Bros didn't get it.
Rorschach was not a joke, guys. He is so obsessed with justice. He doesn't care about his own livelihood, his hygiene, nothing. It's all he cares about.
Yeah, Rorschach wasn't a joke. I mean, people have gotten him wrong. They kind of, according to Alan Moore, people have gotten him wrong. He wasn't supposed to be the hero, the one to be idolized. That's not what Rorschach was intended to be. But people did. He wasn't a joke. That's not what he was.
I mean, even well, he said he was intended to be, but even if he were intended to be a joke, well, he's not written as a joke in the comics, so.
Yeah, of course, it's Dude Bros. I know all these people, all the Dude Bros in college, who just go and play their Hello in Call of Duty, and then crack open the
Hello.
Yeah, they just crack open. Let's read some Watchmen, gentlemen.
Yeah, hello everyone. It's reaching Watchmen now.
Oh yeah, bro, I was reading some Watchmen while playing my Call of Duties.
So the sense mean when they said that there was clearly a right way of handling politics in comics back in the day compared to modern stuff. Well, I think that's pretty obvious. So there are two kinds of people who I see tweet things like this. Firstly, you have those who either can't see or choose not to see these comics as political. Is it that? Does it go that way?
What about the other way?
See them as political.
What if it's the other way around? What if they're not political and you choose to see them as political? I think it's people like you who choose to see them as political even though they're not. Let me go with that one. I think that's what actually is the case here.
I'd be happy to look at every page of the Watchmen to identify all the references of politics, and there's plenty, I'm sure. But that doesn't mean references equate to a story about politics or of politics. They just have elements therein as a setting for the time period. I don't see that as a political message. Like Shiny was referencing the show whose name I also just forgot it's all about the presidency.
One of them is House of Cards, and the
Right.
other one is Designated Survivor.
Right. Those are inherently about those areas of office and the machinations and the desires and good and evil within. You can even say West Wing is about politics, although I'd argue it isn't. It just happens to involve a very strong setting within the West Wing, but they're all just a bunch of people doing their job, and one of those people happened to be the president. So, is that
I wouldn't even
politics?
say that. I wouldn't even say that the Kevin Spacey House of Cards show is political. It's just about a guy who happens to be in politics.
Yeah.
It's about politics. It's not political. It's just showing you like this mad genius, this Machiavellian guy named Frank Underwood, as he maneuvers his way to to get revenge on his political enemies.
Exactly.
It's not political. It has politics in it. It's like Game of Thrones. It has politics in it, but it isn't political. It's not telling you like this way of thinking is better or whatever. It's not saying that abortion is good or something. It's
Right.
not. It's not doing any of that.
I think there is a confusion between having politics in something and something being political in terms of having a large political bias and bashing people over the head with it. And I think Hello Greedo is a very good example of someone who is completely misunderstood it. He went out there and said, "Oh, I don't understand why Star Wars fans are saying that Star Wars, shouldn't be political. Star Wars has always been political." And then he says, "Even I don't understand Clone Wars fans because the Clone Wars is very political." And it's like, okay, Mr. Hello Greedo, show me some evidence where Clone Wars is political. And and the evidence he uses in his video is that there's an episode about remember the Heroes on Both Sides one, where they're trying to stop the escalation of the war. So they go to the Separatists to try and get someone on their side to agree to the peace deal before the escalation starts. And he used that as an evidence for why Clone Wars is political. It's like, no, that's not political. That's about politics in a fictional world.
I think one of the issues is, at least the way I've encountered it with people like this, is that most people, or I've encountered, or like myself, I derive my political views from my core beliefs. So like I have generally very individualistic beliefs, so I tend to favor policies that are individualistic. But these people, they see the political beliefs as part of these core beliefs. So they see them as the exact same level as like a message about being good to others. They see that on the same level as a message that's purely political. Whereas a lot of people distinguish political from like moral or other. And so I think they set that on the exact same level. So they say, oh, because there's politics in this story, it must also be political.
Right. Let's actually define the word just so we're all on the same page here, because I think Shiny put up a good point that there are elements here and there, but what does it actually mean? So politics are the activities associated with the governance of a country or other area, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power. So you have people who want to govern other people, and the conflicts and ideas and desires of all those other people of how they achieve that. That's all it is. So I think this person should lead the rest of us. I think that person should lead the rest of us. So you can have a political story about a bunch of voters, and they're giving reasons why and pro and against a certain party. That could be an entire story right there, and that's a political story. So just talking about ideas and why someone's better than the other.
Message coming in.
That's why I was talking before you guys about Ayn Rand. She has very big political ideas which stem from her view on philosophy and economics. And she uses her books, which are very, very redundant. Like The Fountainhead is essentially just the basis for Atlas Shrugged. And her other science fiction stories are just weird. So, but she uses that because that's what she believes, and she makes fiction out of it and tells a story that way, which is an interesting form of entertaining and teaching us at the same time. And some people don't like talking or reading about political science unless they're actually studying it. Anyway.
What I meant to say is basically that people who claim that everything is political often don't seem to see that the definition that you meant. They see them on the exact same level as philosophical beliefs, just slightly different. That's what I meant. So they don't see them connecting to governance directly, but more just being core of being human in a way.
That's kind of any ideology, though. You could apply that to any philosophy.
Yeah.
So it's too vague for people who actually have read some philosophers. It's like, that's not what that person thought, or that's not what Kant thought. That's not what Wittgenstein thought. Like they did not think that way. I'm sorry. Like you're getting
I fully agree.
Yeah, you're getting like this reductio Coles Notes version of like Leibniz. It's like, that's not what Leibniz thought. That's like, no way Kripke thought that. Like, there's all these ridiculous arguments people are stating because they read it on Wikipedia or something. Anyway, Bogue, thanks again. They think being a commie is a centrist position. Wow.
Yeah, they do.
Whoa. Okay. Canada, we have our Liberal Party. They are considered centrist because the only thing to the right of them are the Conservatives. That's it. But we have other parties further left than the Liberals, so they end up thinking they're centrist, but they're actually not. They used to be centrist back in the 70s and 80s, and now we're not sure where they just say yes to everything. I don't know what. Like, that's how they get elected. Oh, we'll do that. We'll spend money on that. We'll do. It's like, you can't. There's no budget. Anyway, let's just.
I'm being flooded with the Wikipedia communists.
Okay.
I think, just to shortly completely sum up my previous point as concise as possible, I don't think these people understand what it means to be political.
Yeah.
That. Do I have to Google this? Google
Yes.
Images is giving me mixed messages, I don't know. To them, these are simply action-packed escapist adventure tales unconnected from the world of politics. Then there are those who are at least cognizant enough to see
Okay, so do you know what an escapist tale is, per se? Something which is, like video games where people used to escape from the real world. Is Dungeons & Dragons political?
Inherently, no, I'd say. But there are power struggles.
It's not political. I mean, they try to make it political by equating certain races with certain real life races.
Sure.
And then saying, oh, therefore Dungeons & Dragons is racist or something, or dangerous or deadly or whatever it is. But it's not inherently political. No.
You could have a storyline that is political with your friend group, but as Smut said, I wouldn't say the game is inherently political itself.
All right, you team up with the half-orcs who are off to go fight fantasy communism. That would be good.
Yeah, like you kill the orc chieftain and then you appoint the next orc chieftain. Maybe, like something like that would be political, but
it would change them. Yeah, these guys were these orc. I thought we were a Thomas Collective. No, not anymore. You're not a Thomas Collective anymore. You're not feudalists. You're not follow feudalism.
Inherent superhero stories, but they don't mind the older ones too much because they don't feel especially challenging or divisive. You see, the problem to them isn't that there are politics in comics. The problem is controversial politics that only aim to divide us. Which is another way of saying that the only politics in media that should exist are bland, centrist, mainstream opinions.
I want to punch this guy right now. I'm sorry. This guy is just so dumb.
Oh.
I think he's being very smug and he's creating a huge straw man.
This is so insulting to readers of like, if you are a comic book reader, which I assume this guy was, you would not start poisoning your own friends or making them look bad, because everyone I've met comes from a wide range of flavors and backgrounds and tastes. And that's like going to a manga convention or an anime convention or a comic convention and this and that. They're all over the map politically. They don't really care. They care about their hobby. And some of those stories like Gundam and other things throughout the years were political. Sure, a bunch of warring countries. Yeah, that's political. Why not? Of course. But there's nuance. They don't watch it because, oh, wow, I get to watch a spacefaring civilization fight another spacefaring civilization over some galactic area of space I have no notion of or can't conceive. No, they're looking at the characters and their personal motivations and their struggles and conflicts and reasons for doing things and killing people. That's what they're interested in, the drama. This is like, oh, well, nowadays we have good social change and they don't like it because it's controversial. It's like, no, it's stupid. The stories suck. The ideas are nothing special, and you're ramming it down our throats.
I'm pretty sure there's no way we're getting to this whole video today.
It's getting in the way of actually telling a story because your focus is no longer telling a good story. It becomes sending a message. I don't know why I've just got the Joker clip playing in my head again.
Yeah.
But it's not about making money, it's about sending a message. But
sending a message.
It's the same way with what I spoke about characters before. They don't write characters to be good characters. They write them to be a woman or gay or non-binary, and to them that's enough. That they don't need to write anymore. That's all. The appeal isn't to write a good character, it's to have a character that is X, Y, and Z. And your focus must be to tell a good story, not to tell politics.
And I don't mind having characters who actually think this way, or who are lesbian, bi, gay, whatever. Like that does not. We don't care. And as Shani likes to admit, the example is from Doctor Who all the time of that character who's always.
Because it's the perfect example. Because literally the only characteristic she has in the entire show, I think it's the one season she's in, I hope it's not more,
right,
is that she's gay, and she constantly fucking reminds you how gay she is all the time.
And that's an argument about proper characterization or lack of, because we don't, when you have all these stories that happen to involve this government faction or this actual political member in a contemporary story, like, okay, fine, that's therefore a political mention that could be part of the plot. The same with bad stories that just have that for the sake of it, or bad characters who just are the thing for the sake of it. You have to do more. You can't just give us, here is Justin Trudeau, and he is walking down the street to buy some bread. And you're like, okay, why? That's fine, but I mean, who cares? That could be anyone. Give me something about his character that makes me want to read about him. You can't just have, and now I'm going to give money to this poor man because I'm a good person. Like, okay, that's weird, but what? Like, you have to keep going with him as a character. And I don't like this idea that, because he's Justin Trudeau, therefore he's good because he believes in giving money to the poor. It's like, not necessarily. What makes a liberal-minded person a good person? Nothing. They just have an ideology different from other people. Why is that good? Why is that bad? Show me and tell me if you're going to tell a story along those lines. It can't just be a piece of propaganda. That's the other problem with political stories, is they become giant soapboxes or giant blowhorns for whoever has the ideology, and then they're preaching to you, and it's no longer a story. It's a manifesto, or it's some sort of, it's just propaganda as far as I'm concerned. It's useless. And that's not just politics, that's anything. Like PSAs or there's all those annoying cartoons people make up about Jesus saving the dinosaurs or whatever. Just like, what the hell are you? What is this bizarre message you're telling me? Okay.
I would love to hear a story about how Jesus saved the dinosaurs.
Oh God! Please
really
don't.
Cool. Yeah.
No, let's not go there. They're real. Let's not actually do that. There's crazies on either aisle.
Jesus goes up and he punches him like Superman, and he goes flying.
But I saw the picture of
he
Jesus.
smashes the asteroid into pieces like Saitama.
Jesus was the original comic book superhero.
When he was hugging I think he was hugging a velociraptor. I was like, that's enough. That's too much. I think I'm done.
I think later on I'll search for that. I need to see that.
Yeah. Anyway, Joe Crazy. It's guys like this that allow for something that I'm not Starfire to exist. What? That allow?
I'm Not Starfire is a new comic book they came out with. Where the writer is she's a daughter of Starfire, but she's like 1'5" or something and 300 pounds.
She looks more like the daughter of the Penguin, but I think people have made multiple jokes about that already.
Yeah, that's I just figured that.
The only way that could come out of Starfire is that the Penguin was the father.
Well, Starfire is a very open-minded woman.
Anyway, let's start saving some Velociraptor. Let's keep going.
It shouldn't change the status quo in any way. So I want to address both
centrist views aren't challenging the status quo in any way.
Months researching and writing in response to a single tweet. because I'm thorough and pedantic as hell. So let's dive into the right way that older comics incorporated politics. You know, back when their messaging was a bit more subtle and definitely not controversial. Something like...
Who says that, by the
I'll meet
way?
you guys in the clearing with anybody else I find.
Wait. Who says that they
Sarcasm.
Hey, that's not a comic.
Hello, Glib.
Hey, Glib.
But who actually says that? Who says that? Oh, this is the right way to do politics in comics. Was it really?
I
was
do.
it really the way to
Captain
do
America
comics?
is.
He is politics.
He is
I
the
am
right
the
politics. He is make America great again, make Germany Nazi again.
Wait, I hadn't heard that spot before.
I am the politics.
We
Make
have to
soccer
un-Nazi every country.
I have been every politic inside your head.
Oh God.
Oh god.
You know what you're doing? Yeah. I've knocked that Adolf Hitler over 200 times.
That was a joke about the propaganda that he had to sit through.
Captain America punching the Hitler man.
It made a joke about how politics was stupid, and then we just had to fight the war.
That was
not engage in-
propaganda,
Yeah, not engaged in propaganda. It made fun of the propaganda. It was mocking the propaganda.
Is he suggesting that we want propaganda from World War II as the form of politics? Here's my problem. Number one thing is that when we get people that make videos like this, they're always kind of being beta about their arguments. They're like, so yeah, I know you want politics, and here's this example of why it's a good thing, and you're a total hypocrite. It's not look, you're just this way or that way. They don't have a straightforward thing a claim that they make. They back it up, and it's here. It has to be something like this. And then they play the little tune, and it's oh, I'm baiting your nostalgia for Captain America. And here's why it's problematic.
Also, does that seem like a bit of cherry picking to someone else? It's
Oh, of
yeah,
course.
we also can pick all the comics that that are not political.
My favorite political comic is when Punisher shoots a bunch of Nazis in a nuclear missile silo.
And what about the one where he shoots a bunch of Russians? Is that political? That's not, by the way.
Is
He shoots a
Spider-Man?
bunch of Russians.
Is Spider-Man political? Is X-Men political? I would say in some cases it is in certain episodes, but as a whole, you just want to
Certain
tell us.
But then
Episodes can
I
be.
would say we have to define what we mean by political, because again, you can have politics in something.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily make it political.
The comic books, as they've developed over time, they're not overall political. Then they shouldn't be. Some of them might be, some of them are. Every once in a while, but overall, the generalized depiction of superhero comic books in America are not political. At least they weren't. They didn't get famous over politics. We go back and look at them and laugh at them a little bit because how blatant the propaganda was. But the mainstay pillar stories that everyone always goes to and talks about were not these propaganda stories. They're not the political stories. They were the good stories.
To answer your question, Shani, I think personally I would define, in terms of comics, a political comic as a comic that advances a political agenda, as in Punch the Nazis.
What a horrible message! Just to tell people, find someone you disagree with and punch them. It's it's become a popular meme now, and I just can't wrap my brain around why you'd ever want to ensconce in the minds of people. Be violent with people you disagree with. It's no.
Oh, it's so stupid.
Wasn't there a comic where school kids or something were pretty much becoming terrorists and attacking peaceful protesters who were protesting to allow guns on campus or
I
something?
think it's a Mark Waid thing.
I just ignore most of Twitter anyway, so I don't really pay attention to all the... Because we're talking about Twitter, we're talking about the left American message, which Canada, even we get in our trending. It's what the hell? Why is Donald Trump trending in Canada? I'm what the hell is going on? I want to know locally.
They have anti-Donald Trump protests in Australia and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
jeez.
America's going to annex Canada, call it America Junior, open up a Tim Hortons Disneyland.
That's exactly what they did in Fallout. Are we going to live Fallout?
We're already living Fallout. You know what? Fallout is in 2077. That's when the bombs fell. Cyberpunk 2077 isn't coming out until 2077. It's all lining up.
I mean, if we annex Canada, we can't let them vote because they'll just always vote Democrat. We just never, the Republicans never win.
They'll always
again.
write in the Queen. Oh. The Queen is my leader.
All we have to do is have a Canadian provisional ballot, and then they vote in. You go, oh, sorry, you can't vote here. Oh, okay, sorry.
Luckily, I'm too far away to be annexed by the US, at least for now.
Germany,
for now.
Well, we shouldn't have lost all those wars, and maybe we'd be annexed by you.
I didn't partake in any of the. Well, we didn't partake in any of the wars.
We almost got Greenland.
That's just what you say in public.
We almost got Greenland.
Greenland is mine!
Glib, I'm not German, I'm Swiss.
I know. That's the joke.
Oh, sorry.
What kind of Swiss? What kind of German is that? You know what I mean? That's like the. Oh, you're from Uruguay. What kind of Mexican is that?
What flavor Mexican is that?
All right.
Switzerland is great.
Needs to stay great again.
Yeah, it should be greater though.
It's Swiss Sig. Stay in greatness.
I'm pretty sure, all Europeans are somehow just German.
Absolutely. That's the way that I look at the world, because I'm Captain America.
Just buy your Toblerone and your Lindt, and everyone loves you. It doesn't matter where you're from. Just thank the Swiss on your way out of the store.
You know what's funny? It doesn't matter where you come from at all, because I love you anyway. So
Glib,
ultimately,
I love you all. You're all great.
That was pretty gay, Glib.
I love you all equally. Oh God.
It was the right kind of gay.
Yeah, if people learn to love each other, the world would be a better place to live.
Oh boy. Let's keep going. This is going to be a long video. To Tim, 505, thank you. Watch Under the Mayo God of War video. I did, thank you. And get Wonderful 101 on stream. It's platinum best game. Okay. What?
Definitely.
It is actually a great game.
Wonderful, Beautiful Joe.
Patching it through.
Same creator.
Oh, yes. Okay, I see what you mean.
Do you know those games?
Yep.
Yeah. And don't buy the 13 remake, guys.
No, do not. It is very sad to look at. All right, Joe Crazy. There's a difference between punching someone you are at war with and punching someone random jackass on the street. Yeah, just don't punch people, okay? We're not at war. We're at war. You drop bombs on them.
Nazis, Smud. What? We just have to go out there and punch people who disagree with us.
There's this beautiful thing called tolerance, even in America. No matter what your ideology is, you respect them because they're your countrymen, and you can get along. You can argue the facts and yada yada. You can say wonderful things and sitting down and having a conversation. Hopefully over food and drink, because that's the best way to talk to people. But I don't know what they do.
If you British, some nice tea and crumpets.
See, that's a great idea. Tea is a fantastic way to break the ice. The nicest way. It's the warmest, nicest. Oh, you're a nice person. Even if the tea is bitter as hot as hell, it's still a nice gesture. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
This must be the right way of handling politics in superhero named after one country and dressed in a star-spangled.
Could you tell me who is arguing this? That this is the right way to do politics. Him being called Captain America is not political. It's just, hey, that superhero is called Captain America. That's not politics. It's just him representing a country called America. You can have like a Captain Canada or something.
Yeah.
Captain Britain was he's the most political, obviously.
Yeah, you can have Captain Britain. He goes around and serves bad guys tea and punches them out with pillows or something. I don't know.
We actually have a Captain Canuck. I don't even know what that's about, but we look at Wolverine. Wolverine was a Canadian experiment. Captain America was an American experiment. The thing is, X-Men is more than just about where you're coming from. It's about what you are and who you are and how you fit in. With Captain America, some of his identity is really rooted in being an American and fighting for what he believes in. So that I can understand. And that's fine. But there's lots of stories where Captain America loses his way. And that's the beauty of that kind of character. Not because he is inherently American, it's because of the reasons why he still is the way he is and why he fights the way. Because remember that story where he gets the Infinity Gauntlet? Everyone says, yeah, obviously you give it to Captain America because he's the purest, the best idealist of all of us. He believes in helping everyone. And he can't withstand the power. I can't remember the exact story. Or he tries to save the day. But that is the idea behind Captain America. He is the guy you go to when you're never going to have a problem with him ever being doubtful or going against what he believes in, because he's so strong-minded. So it's not so much that he's a superhuman physically, although they play that into his mind and his brain. He can see things faster and think things fast. Just bullshit nonsense. But anyway, the fact
Captain Britain looks kind of weird. Like there's no mutton chops or anything.
Yeah.
Come on. Where's his 10-gallon hat or whatever you call those things?
Where's the monocle?
The monocle.
Yeah, we need a monocle on the top.
Three-piece suit. Come on, what's wrong with you?
Captain Switzerland with the fucking fingers.
Captain Switzerland. I think he's there to heal you.
With the tools from a Swiss Army knife in his fingers. It's great.
Oh no, the Swiss. The Swiss are attacking from the
That's great.
I was just curious if I could find the Captain Switzerland. That's why I googled that.
In the Tick, they have
Captain Switzerland never leaves his base. He just doesn't want anybody to come on his.
There's a brilliant rendition of that in the Tick where we're being attacked by the Swiss, and it's the tweezers out.
Tweezers out.
Also, Captain Britain with his mask on, or whatever that is, he kind of looks like an X-Men. He's like an X on his face.
But Captain Britain is so much more toned than Captain America. Look at him.
No,
he's got fire behind him.
But he's got a UK flag on his chest, so he should be Captain United Kingdom.
Captain United Kingdom.
Captain Britain, much better.
As the remember that
no, you guys understand.
Sargon's political campaign. He got beat by the Cox.
The thing about the Tick, the Swiss, I have to mention one more time, is that they have gigantic Swiss Army knives on their back, which sounds ridiculous, but is actually, when you think about it, kind of practical.
There are stores where you can buy those things like that over here.
That just makes me so happy.
Like seriously, huge knives that you can fold in.
Oh my god!
Those exist. It's hard to get them, but they exist.
Because they have like these grappling hooks. They're always dispensing stuff out. I was like, that makes total sense. A gigantic utility belt. Like, perfect. It's amazing. Anyway.
The outfit, real-life fascist leader of another country. Now that is the subtlety and nuance that people crave in their superhero stories.
See how sarcastic he is?
Yeah.
And smug. Don't forget the smug.
Smug is what I was going for, yeah, but sarcastic as well.
I bet he doesn't.
Okay, look, I get it. It might feel cheap for me to focus on this image specifically, but in my experience, discussions about comics and politics tend to lead back to this image of Captain America.
Look at his background. He's like, did he print them all out or something? Like, what is he doing? Is that green?
He just went into a comic store, put up his chest. People were like, please leave. And he's like, no, I'm making a video.
I'm buying them all.
I think what he's just put papers of them in the background.
Yeah, probably.
Time and time
to me,
again.
even
fact,
that just looks like it's been printed out. Because if you look at it, right, it's hard to see there, but on a closer-up shot, it's much easier to see. It looks more like it's just been, you know, when you print out a bunch of A4 and just fold it together.
Yeah,
like, it makes a really shitty book. And like each layer slowly comes out each time. That's what's happened there. Look, you can see on each layer it's being pushed out.
Did this guy just copy word for word what these other people said on Twitter and made them seem like they were his opinions? Look, obviously the right way to handle it was make a character named after your country and then debut that character as punching a real world dictator square in the jaw. It's real subtle but effective. This is exactly what he says.
Look at that guy's name.
He changed the wording a little bit. Punching Nazis is the American dream in a sport.
Like, what the hell?
You can't make this up. You just can't make this up. These people are insane. That's why you call Twitter is a leftist matrix. Like everything is carried to suit the left agenda and ideals. All the news is spun in their direction. All the trending is their trending. Everything is a cater to left. So Twitter is a place you can go to if you're leftist. If you're leftist and you want your ideas catered to and boasted and supported. If you're not, you're kind of out of luck.
Let's be honest, most of the big tech social media sites are.
Oh yeah, definitely. But look at these other Eric Schwinecki says how comic book writers used to handle politics, like having a hero that symbolizes the U.S. punched an IRL foreign leader that had an embarrassing amount of support amongst Americans at the time. You mean like didn't he get on People magazine? Or
He
Time?
didn't even dare to name Hitler.
It was Time magazine. Was it Time magazine? I think he got on Time magazine for how he was handling things over there. They liked him over there.
Yes.
Caleb Kinchlow says comic books are still outlets to express cultural ideas and bases. Wouldn't it be the same thing as included LGBT storylines and
Am I in a
expanding the
different
universe?
brain? Because I just see him with a comic book.
I think it's over here where I am. So
In America.
I also have tweets.
In America.
I also have tweets.
I see the tweet.
In
Sure.
America.
I keep
There we go. I
having
can see them
spikes.
now.
Storylines are expanding the universe to have minority heroes play better roles. We can even go further back to when Captain America was fighting Hitler. Yeah. Was that story even political, or was he just fighting a bad guy?
All of these people bitching about other people's shit. It's like, dude, you don't own any of this. Shut the fuck up and read it or not. Like, you can criticize it if you want to. That's what we do all the time. But like, if the character is defined the way that it is, and it's written the way that it's supposed to be according to how it's always been written, why are you trying to fuck with it? Isn't that gonna destroy it? Usually.
Well, we have to understand that these were done at a certain time of history in America where this was the talk of the town for several years. So naturally, if you want to increase sales or get any sales, you talk about what's popular. And what's wrong with selling a comic book to kids about your fictional superhero punching out the guy who's like the devil, according to the world? So that's fine. It's a good piece of fiction.
Okay, that's offensive and racist. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's defensive. How dare you punch out this poor European man?
This poor oppressed devil did nothing wrong.
Okay, here's a Fritz Philogene. Thank you. Donation. Just replace Nazi with blacks and watch the horde flow. Yeah, that's a. You gotta be careful when you swap ideas on these people. They get very angry.
Well, it's showing the bias. I remember that what happened with I can't remember what it was. It might have been Kotaku, or it might have been the Mary Sue, or like some other article based news outlet. They changed every single line so that instead of they swapped black to white and white to black, and they changed male to female and female to male, and it sounded like the most racist, sexist shit you ever heard. I swear to God.
I don't know. I just think it's funny how somebody's like saying that even if Captain America punched Nazis, right, which is what they're all about, there's still a problem. Something is still problematic. There's still something that needs to be changed, or there's an issue, and I think that they're the mentally ill, basically. So we're dealing with a bunch of mentally ill, either sociopaths or arrested development, basically adults with children minds or teenagers with childlike minds that are damaged. And so they come out with these takes on Twitter, because in real life, everybody looks at them like, wow, you're kind of fucking crazy, aren't you? You're going off about punching Nazis in comic books and how they're politically not engaging enough for you. They don't give you enough affirmation for your political opinion. Like, I'm sorry. You know what I mean?
There are game journalists this past week who are banning Cyberpunk 2077 over that ridiculous trans ad in one of the whatever trailers months ago. And they say it's damaging, it's hurting the trans community. You're like, it's an ad in an in-game universe. Like, what are you talking? Like, it's so bizarre that these people are the ones that are at the keyboard as journalists on game.com websites.
At this point, what doesn't hurt the trans community? Like, everything hurts them for some reason.
Oh,
you have
the first batch of
someone
reviews have come out, and they talk a lot about, oh yeah, it's great that you gender isn't inherently tied to your genitals, but there's no option for they them pronouns and shit like that.
Oh yeah, because when they were writing the game, none of this really existed because it's taken them.
Anyway,
went. To be fair, a lot of people obviously can see that this image is blatantly and unapologetically political.
how is it political? Tell me.
He's just punching Hitler.
I want to know. Give me the reason why it's one guy punching another guy.
I'll agree it's propaganda, and
Yes.
but at this point it is, Captain America punching Hitler, who is an enemy and a horrific person.
Yeah, but
Very obviously,
imagine this
he's
is
not.
the
We're not at
UN.
war with Trump. Trump is the prime minister or the
Oh, jeez.
president. Sorry.
Let's not go that far. But imagine this was a scene in like reality. Like there's Hitler at the UN, whatever, he says whatever he wants, and then Captain America just runs up and smacks someone. You're like, was that an operation? Was that his mission? Why didn't he kill him? Like what's
He
going?
just runs up and then smacks someone and then runs down again. And that was it. No big operation.
What's the scenario? Why
He
did
runs
Even
in,
like
hey,
right now, like Captain America going up and punching, I don't know, a Chinese representatives, whoever the hell in charge over there. That would be a bit too far because it's.
Yeah, like imagine a comic.
Just what does that add to a story?
Again,
what's the point in this other than just say, oh well, Captain America's punching China?
Right, like so. Imagine there's a comic of I don't know some Chinese war veteran punching Trump, and it's the same depiction here. Would that be political? Can you imagine that scene happening in any political context? Like they're having a negotiation, all of a sudden this guy walks up and smacks someone. It's bizarre. Just the scenario itself, so that we have to know the context of what that means. And just saying this is political because one guy's dressed up in Star-Spangled Banners, the other guy's a military leader. Is that based off military? Is this a military maneuver? I can bet you money it's not. So
Maybe he just doesn't like the mustache.
yeah, there's lots of we don't know the context of what makes this political aside from he's wearing the American colors and that guy's definitely not American. Did they fight over a girlfriend? Like, what's going on here? We don't know.
That being said, I personally have gotten into countless arguments in the comments and over private messages from people who genuinely can't find any politics in this image whatsoever.
Yeah,
I
go ahead and
promise
tell
I'm
me.
not trying to straw
Tell
man
us.
Go ahead and tell
anyone.
me.
This happens to me constantly.
Tell us.
And show us.
Genuinely no
Show
real
us.
politics going on.
Tell us a
here.
story.
That's not compared to modern comics. The trash comics, we're
If it happens to him so much, why doesn't he show any proof of it?
He just says it's political. He doesn't
Well,
show
maybe
his
he
fight.
doesn't want to. Okay, maybe give it to him. He doesn't want to like reveal people who are like saying a bit like on show tweets or something,
True.
especially if it's DMs. But if it's tweets,
You
then
still could block out the
it's
names
online
and
already.
everything.
You can erase the names. But even if it's on like tweets,
Yeah.
it's very public. Like, that's more than fine to show, especially if you're removing the names. But he should definitely show examples if this is the truth.
It should be a very
But
easy.
we're not even defending this as being this
No.
is the way comics should be, or this is what we should be doing in our media. Because again, it is propaganda. What we don't want propaganda. We want stories.
All he has to do is provide 2 sentences of this is what happened when Hitler said this to cause Captain America to punch him, and then that would explain whether or not it was political or non-political. You can't just have pictures of people getting punched that happen to be world leaders and say this is political. That doesn't mean anything. There has to be a political conflict. What's the context of this scene? Are they at a dinner party, or did you just get up and spill a drink on you? Like, what's going on? We need to know details.
superhero the nerve to be more interesting and diverse than the pantheon of mostly straight white cis dudes that resulted from comics being created for decades by mostly straight white cis dudes. So anyway, I think
How do you know that? Do you know that?
A close
About
look
race
at
and
this comic
gender
specifically for
and sexuality.
exactly that reason. Plus, I think it'll be a fun history lesson regardless that I can hopefully make entertaining for you guys because it's gonna be how long? So Here's what we're going to break down today. What's the real story behind how this comic cover got to be made?
Oh, just that cover?
How did readers in the 1940s react when they first saw this? Is there a deeper hidden meaning behind this
there isn't.
overtly patriotic image? Something subtly molded into the fabric of Captain America's
Shut the fuck
design.
up, dude. You're not clever.
Overlooked. And why are some people so unable to view this comic as profoundly political as it is? Whew, that's a lot to cover.
You didn't cover shit!
And a ton of time
But
spent
he's
discussing
just
and
saying that it is political without actually saying why it's political. And I'm more than happy to say it's propaganda, but he's not. He's just saying it is, and he's not defining what he even considers something to be political.
I think we could all agree it's propaganda, that cover itself. Yes. But that doesn't make it political. That's true. We need to know the details of a political story and how that one is, and he hasn't done that yet. And it's nerve-wracking because, it's so obvious. It's like,
Message
no, it's
coming
not.
in.
Anyway, Todd Howard, if this guy brings up anything about Israel, I just want to point out that Israel is a white religious ethno-state. Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Message coming in.
I have absolutely no opinion on the matter. Let's keep going. Taker 610. You can't trust that face. It's too punchable. It's silly. What he's saying is just I'm right. Ha ha ha. Like, oh.
It's usually a soul boy argument that I'm right, and I'm just going to scoff at you and mock you because you're wrong. But I'm not going to give you any evidence that you're wrong. It is known. It is known, and just laughs at you without giving you a counter argument.
I would love,
like we just said with the cover there. Like, can you believe some people actually can't find the politics in this cover? I'm not trying to strawman anybody. I just can't find the politics in this cover. Am I going to explain how it's political? No, that's going to scoff and make myself feel better than the people who can't find politics in the cover.
So I like
I'm not going to explain myself.
Other authors on YouTube, or what was his name? You tend to like him. He rants a lot. He'll have all these points, all these references, and then he'll say he'll dance around saying how right he was. It's like, okay, fine, but you've proven your stuff with argument. So I like Razor Fist. That's the guy who does it. He's
Razor
Fist. Very articulate, has lots of references, and then he does a little victory dance or whatever. Great.
Yeah, he does.
Good for him. He actually gave an argument and explained things. This guy just says I'm right, and he pulls up a piece of clay and starts playing. Like, what do you no?
This guy's argument boils down to I'm right, and I can't believe people disagree with me.
I'm right, and I can't believe people can't see what I see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, I just always love it when people bring up say, "Oh, it's made by straight white men" as an inherent bad thing, and they never explain why it's bad.
Yeah, like all the
French
comics.
The same mentality that they've become so indoctrinated that they believe that this isn't an explanation. Like it's not. Here are reasons why being a straight white man is bad. Is that the mere presence of you, the mere existence of you being a straight white man is bad, and they're so insulated within their own little realms of mentality and thought that it's like obvious to them. Like, you don't believe that straight white men are inherently evil? You must be a bigot. They don't even bother explaining this stuff anymore because it's just it's not part of it. Like, it's according to them, if you don't know this stuff already, then you are obviously ignorant and a bigot, or either or
uneducated.
Yeah, and it's not my job to educate you, okay? Look into it. Google this stuff. Wikipedia it, okay?
Read a book.
Here's
a
post article on this stuff.
But why aren't we allowed escapist media anymore? We're not allowed video games. We're not allowed movies, TV shows, or anything. They all have to be pushing some kind of political agenda. So we don't allow for anything just to be escapist.
They want the hegemony of opinion, and as long as you don't have their opinion, they want to force you to have it. So they will make everything you consume force you to basically come to their opinion.
But life is shit. The reason why we play video games and watch TV and movies is for about an hour or a few hours. We sit down, we have a laugh, and enjoy ourselves, and not thinking about the horrible things. The everything else in our life that we don't want to pay attention to. We don't want to pay attention to the taxes, or how much our monetary problems, or the politics in our world, or the things which are happening in our streets, with all that stuff. So why can't we have this? Instead, you've got to just throw politics into something like, let's say, Doctor Who. Doctor Who, which has always been very escapist, we now can't use it as escapist material because you've just... It's horrible writing, it's extremely political, and it's noxious on how much it just pushes into there. And then the whole defense is just that, oh, you just don't like it because they're a woman, or because they're black, or because this, that, and the other, or because they're gay, and not actually listening to what the fuck we're saying.
Or it could be because the creators of Superman were Jewish. And that's a political message right there, apparently. Superman was Moses. Oh, sure, yeah, ideally, but not literally. He's going to bring us to the promised land. Or giant spiritual exodus to America? I have no idea. Anyway.
These, unfortunately, food money. Who's that? I don't know her. Part 1. The real origin of Captain America. Jacob Kurtzberg grew up in New York's Lower East Side under working-class Austrian immigrants in 1917. It was a rough neighborhood full of street fights and rooftop brawls where he learned he needed to act tough and be tough to survive. But he found an escape in the world of fantasy. One rainy day, Kurtzberg saw an issue of the pulp magazine Wonder Stories floating down the gutter. It was likely this story by Hazel Held and H.P. Lovecraft called The Man of Stone, but it was the image on the cover that captivated him. It featured a gorgeous illustration of a futuristic sci-fi rocket ship that sparked a creative urge inside of him to put pencil to paper and sketch out the imaginative visions he saw in his head. Kurtzberg was a talented artist, and by 1939, he landed a job at Fleischer Studios, helping animate Popeye and Betty Boop cartoons, but he found the work to be dull and uncreative, reminiscent of the factory job that his father had. It was a waste of his talents. Kurtzberg was desperate to create something of his own. Not long after leaving Fleischer, Jacob Kurtzberg got a tip from fellow artists to try selling some of his original comic ideas to Fox Publications. Now, the editor over at Fox Publications was a man by the name of Joe Simon, who found he had a...
Do you want to skip ahead? I mean, this is fine for a history lesson, but I don't think, we need to know this? Can we just, skip ahead a bit just to see?
Sure, why not?
With a tactic I am extreme.
Had a suit was that my father was a tailor. Kurtzberg's father was a tailor too, but he made pants.
To life. See, Simon was an artist himself who was a bit behind on some deadlines for most of the work, and first time the pages were signed by both men together. But here's something you need to understand about Jacob Kurtzberg if you didn't know it already. See, there's a twist. I'm setting up a twist that most of you probably already know, and I'm just wasting your time with context. It's classic NerdSync for you. No content. Only context. Throughout his early comic career, Jacob Kurtzberg had used an ever-growing list of pen names like Jack Curtis, Bob Brown, and Ted Gray. He just didn't think Kurtzberg sounded like a famous writer or artist, possibly because having a Jewish-sounding name in the 1940s might make particular levels of fame more challenging to reach. Though, to be fair, Kurtzberg always insisted that he was proud of
or
his
it's
Jewish
just a weird
heritage. He
name.
just didn't think that his last name was catchy or memorable enough, which, I mean, I get. My last name looks like a half-finished Wheel of Fortune puzzle. The name Jacob Kurtzberg liked best was a variation of his birth name with an Irish twist, reminiscent of one of his movie heroes, Jimmy Cagney. And forever, Jack Kirby. Kirby, co-creator of nearly every one of your favorite Marvel superheroes. It's not exactly a secret, I just wanted to build some suspense. To the part where this bumbling, money-hungry publisher who was always late to the game on what was popular, with Superman and Batman. I mean, to be fair, nobody did, really. The stalwart commitment to fighting crime. These were the trappings of the new superhero genre. But nobody really understood that yet. Instead, Goodman published the tales of Carl Brugos' Human Torch, a volatile, inhuman android who could burst into flames. Thing is, Human Torch didn't initially have a secret identity, he only occasionally fought crime in his early stories, and he didn't have a costume, unless you consider being completely engulfed in flames to be a mariner, which, again, no secret identity, barely a colorful Flash, who thought both sides of the war were equally bad.
Lord knows I could sink both of your yachts, single-handed, and leave you stranded here. Then I'd be victorious. But I'm so sick of all this warring, fight, all the time. If it isn't you, it's the darn Nazis.
You are the worst. Oh, wait. So, I normally am lit from the side with a little bit of green magic. And by that I mean approached Joe Simon around 1940 and offered him a new, higher paying job, making super he could to make a profit. This is all very exciting, but manipulating tax laws. Goodman would publish comics under the name it would be best known as Profound Revelations. I'll do better. Joe Simon would only accept Goodman's offer to be the first editor of Marvel Comics. Marvel, which is Star-Spangled Hero, containing influences from their previous hero, Blue Bolt, along with some less than subtle inspiration lifted from a red, white, and blue hero by MLJ Comics known as The Shield.
I stayed up all night sketching. Stripes gallantly.
Thinking about characters like Captain Easy in the comic strips, Captain Future in the...
Message coming in.
I think we're probably missing a lot of
origin
bullshit.
Story. Scrawny Steve Rogers turns into beefy Chris Evans thanks to the magical power of mysterious comic book liquids. His identity from costume in his first issue. I want to get too political here, but I think Hitler sucks. If you're still on the fence about that one, I gotta admit I wasn't planning on using this video to explain that position. But I can tell you why a fictional superhero would deck Hitler of all people on the cover of his debut comic. That's something I'm far more equipped to inform you on because I've been entombed in dozens of books, interviews, and articles on the subject for the last 2 months like a dorky pharaoh. They're all linked in the description if you want to read them, but why would you? You clicked on a YouTube video specifically because you have no interest in reading. I get it. Have you tried reading? It sucks. So as always,
oh my God.
I've done the thankless job of...
This is like...
It's just quirky for the sake of being quirky.
Here's a history lesson. Let's get to the point. Oh, wait, I don't have one. Guys, do you like reading? I hate reading. What? What is your point? We don't want to know about your history lesson of the history lesson.
Here's the thing. Have a point.
So
it makes it so much easier for your videos to watch.
According to Joe Simon, one of the hardest problems when crafting superhero comics is creating a good villain for your hero to square off against.
I agree.
It's a problem that many superhero stories still face to this day. Who are these people? What are their hopes and dreams?
What? Wait a second. What? Bezos? Like what?
It's a problem that many superhero stories still face to this day. Who are these?
What?
So we have a guy from Justice League. I can't remember the Steppenwolf.
Yeah, there's
the villain from Iron Man 2. The villain from Ant-Man. The villain from Thor Dark Worlds. Don't know who Mr. Big Brain is there. And I assume the lizard is Killer Croc or some kind of similar concept.
Oh, boy. Anyway, we know where his mind is. So we don't have to worry about his representation of Jim, but let's go to the Super Chats and the donation. Joe Crazy, but the creators of Superman were Jewish. Thank you. We already knew that. Or rather, I already said that. Taker610, how dare you out Jacob? Nazis are everywhere. Okay. Todd Howard, yo, Smud, check your DMs on Discord. Let me get around to that. I'm just trying to follow along here. Todd Howard is super chatted. Oh, okay, fine. Donated. Bro, why this dude look like a shittier Tim Pool? I don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Check my DMs.
If he wore a beanie, it would be more obvious.
Do you guys want someone else to come onto the conversation right now? I'm gonna have to kick someone out. Not you guys online, but in the actual Discord, just because it's only 10 people max. Who could I kick out? Southpaw. Okay, kick out Southpaw.
I think we should kick Jay.
Kick Jay?
Yeah, always kick Jay.
Yes.
I wish I could do that, but no, I can't.
So who the hell's joining?
A guy who wants to join because he loves this topic. I'm like, I'm totally fine with that. Great. I'm totally cool. All right. Hello there. Senor, I have no ears. How do you do, sir? Well, maybe you're not currently online, but thanks for the recommendation. I do appreciate it.
Maybe he doesn't have any ears.
Maybe he doesn't have a microphone. That's also possible. So anyway, that was a very boring 10 minutes. I just ran right through because I don't know why he went through it. This is Jack Kirby. That's great. Can you have a point, please? Anyway, let's just keep going.
People, what are their hopes and dreams and goals?
There you are.
Hell yeah, I'm here. What's up, boys?
All right. Thank you for that recommendation. I do appreciate when people say, I want to come on now and say my bit. Nothing wrong with that. So
Yeah. But yeah, so I just want to make sure, can you guys hear me well? Like, is everything coming in through clean?
You sound a little bit distant from your mic.
Yeah, I'm kind of limited to a really shitty iPhone mic. But yeah, I'll just try to drink really close to the fucking mic here. Can you guys hear me better now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Kino. But yeah, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about this because, because it's like everything this guy is saying, just like, are any of you guys familiar with the book Germany Must Die, written by Theodor Kaufman?
I have heard of it.
Yeah, okay, so just like, and it kind of sort of like explains like sort of like the Nazi hysteria that the left is kind of currently experiencing. So what I believe Theodor Kaufman wrote was after basically World War II, Theodor Kaufman wrote a book called Germany Must Die, where basically he kind of sort of theorizes that the German people were a violent and barbaric group of people that basically had to be pacified. That basically, events like, World War II, the First World War, the Germanic migrations, and Martin Luther's reformations, that the German people were basically an untrustworthy, dirty, and barbaric race. And that the only way for Germany to be purified was to basically just guilt the Germans, until the end of time, until they basically had, the barbarity sort of, pacified out for him. So it kind of sort of pisses me off when people are just yeah, I hate Nazis. What's so wrong about that? Well, you're kind of sort of parroting the words of a fucking madman who basically wanted to culturally genocide an entire race of fucking people. Mike. Yeah, so when this guy's like, hey, Nazis suck, that's a hot take, guys, right? I bet there's a lot of fucking neo-Nazis out there seething. It's shut up, you stupid cunt. But yeah, that's just what I had to say regarding that.
Okay.
Any thoughts?
Well, obviously, if you're saying something against people who don't like Nazis, that must mean you're a Nazi, so...
Oh, boy.
That's how it goes.
The first thing I thought was, well, from the Germans I know, it almost sounds like the modern German state used that book as a handbook how to do stuff.
Yeah. And it's kind of sick, just people who spread this fucking thing, and they don't quite know where it comes from, and they don't quite know its original purpose. It was basically meant to browbeat the German people into basically submission, because Theodor Kaufman was like, hey, they're barbaric, they can't be trusted, they basically need to be guilted from now until the end of time. And I'm not saying Nazis are good, That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, just like, people need to, like, do their fucking history and research and know where this shit comes from. Because I've seen a lot of people just, like, say this shit and they don't actually, like, know what it means, It's just like, yeah, I'm anti-fascist, I'm anti-Nazi. Well, it's just like, okay, so you say that, but do you actually know, like, where that comes from,
Well, I don't think people actually understand the definition of Nazism or fascism or the history of fascism or Italian fascism. And it's become this buzzword like so many other buzzwords that they just jump on. People just jump on because if you ever have a contrary thought to them, you're the enemy. And I don't understand this concept. Usually when we have an argument or discussion, we're like, where are we falling apart? Where are we breaking down? Why don't we talk about that? But we never get to that point, especially online, because they're happy with all their followers that are protecting them and replying, say, yes, you're right. Why don't we do that today? Or why don't we all sit behind our keyboards and remind ourselves what we think, which is not what we do, what we should be doing. We should be reaching out to people and communicating with them and asking them why they think this way. So this gentleman who gave us a little history lesson on, the formation of Jack Kirby's career, that's great and all, but we didn't need to learn that to understand where Captain America came from. Just talk about the content of Captain America. And
basically, how does this history lesson serve your point?
Yeah. So this hatred towards a people...
Devil, I see you tweeting at me. If it's more fucking porn, I swear to God.
Tweet more porn at him.
Send more anime.
More anime. No, anime porn. That's the point. Not porn. Anime porn.
Yeah. The good stuff.
I mean, anime porn is for, like, the true fucking petitions, all right? Just, like, human women, ew, gross, cringe.
I don't know about that one.
Ooh.
I feel like all women are cringe. Hey. And some of the men, too. In fact, 99% of them. Only me stands
the men, the women.
Mound.
The children.
Wait, you are 1% of men?
I am the 1% of men.
The 1% of men. So you're basically like the alpha Chad here, yeah. And also, like, guys, just like, I want to basically make a like, okay, so, like, I want to say that if I stutter, like, at any point in this stream, like, I actually have, like, a speech impediment, so just, like, bear with me. Like, I actually do have a really bad speech impediment.
That's all right, no problem. So long as your mic is close to your mouth and we can hear you, that's all we really care for. Because it's like, I can't. What? Like, what do you? No, that's okay. Anyway,
all right.
This is probably going to go on for another few minutes, but let's just see what he's going with here, and then I might skip ahead again.
Is one just Jeff Bezos? It's impossible to know. My money's on that one. The point is that Simon and Kirby knew a hero is only as interesting as their villains. They saw how Bill Finger and Bob Kane were crafting a gallery of colorful, weird, and exciting villains for...
To explain that, what he's trying to say is they're only as good as their conflicts. So we tend to personify the best opposition of a protagonist as the antagonist. That's the general rule. So, but yeah, he's right in this regard for comic books.
Their caped Batman, such imaginative and unique villains like Joker, Clayface, Doctor Strange, Dr. Crime, Dr. Death, and who could forget the return of Dr. Death. And you might think maybe we should stop handing out medical licenses to people named Dr. Death, but Carl here spent 4 years in med school, 7 years in residency, and showed up doing the work like a professional. Okay. Meanwhile, Dr. Crime was he was a mistake for sure. I need asthma medication.
What's the joke? I don't get
it. Keeps prescribing me crime.
It's just cringe. That's all it is. It's not even humor.
Kirby wanted to infuse a sensational superhero comic with something a bit more grounded. Making a world leader at the center of a global conflict, the central villain of Captain America's first cover demanded that the crimes be realistically evil rather than theatrically scene-showing, and the heroics had to be equally driven. And Joe Simon had a similar thought.
To me, this all appears as if he shows, all these villains before, those weren't really that political, but now this one that he brings in from the real world.
I just want to point out, just like these like the same kinds of people who are just like, you're like, oh, all art is political. But then they're just like, oh, well, just like that art, oh yeah, that you're like that wasn't like as political as this art here. You're like, this is super political, super serious, guys. It's just like, what's the distinction? Is all art political or is some art political? You know?
Well, the title alone is kind of misleading, saying why comics were always political. That means in the past tense. So in the beginning, some of these comics were certainly political, but a lot of the pulps, a lot of the noirs, all the other ones with science fiction, that has nothing to do with almost nothing to do with politics. They're just wondrous adventure stories. And
so this guy is literally contradicting himself.
Well, he's cherry picking, like, obviously Captain America, but that's like, look at the history of comic books and pulp over the past 130 years. Those certainly weren't all the stories. We had plenty of serialized stories from Edgar Allan Poe that had nothing to do with politics. And you can call them pulp, but some of them had illustrations. So they would have a little bit of prose on one page, a little picture on the side. That would technically be the modern comic book at their era. So those were not political. Those were just mystery stories. Those were just murder stories. So no, it's when he points to specific cases. Hey, the comic book that you remember when you were growing up in the 70s, guess what? That originated from World War II, from Jack Kirby. And you're like, that's true. Not every comic is like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I also want to bring this up here, like, a Batman who was inspired by the Shadow. The Shadow was all about, like, taking on the mob back in, like, the 30s, who were actually, like, a pretty big, like, political threat. Like, you basically had, like, guys like Al Capone who could basically, like, assassinate mayors and who basically carried out, like, purges and fucking hits. So, yeah, just, like, so basically, like, my question is, like, are all comics political or are some just, like, more political than others, I mean, that's, like, my main question here for this fucking, like, Tim Pool looking ass.
Well, we can look at any other, I don't know, celebrity figure. Like, I think Barack Obama was in a comic book once. Not Kamala Harris. What's her name? That's that weird lefty-leaning.
AOC?
AOC, yeah.
Wasn't there Hillary Clinton in a 2016
really?
comic book?
I don't remember that. But, like,
that's possible.
People who have a little bit of political clout or memorable visually or whatever they did will get thrown into a comic book for whatever reason. And it's like, oh, great. I think we did that a few cases with some of our Canadian prime ministers. So it does happen for a good reason because people are like, oh, wow, look at Barack Obama in a comic book. What do you know? So,
yeah.
And not only that, but also in Japanese manga, they throw Barack Obama here and there and, because he was such a worldwide thing. So there's reasons why they put them in there. And it's not just because of politics, it's because of popularity.
Yeah. It's sort of like the iconography thing going on here. We're just like, like, I don't think people put them in for, like, expressly political messages most of the time. I think it's just like, hey, here is a recognizable, like, figure, like, in, like, the popular zeitgeist. Let's just, like, put them in there,
I think Obama was in Doctor Who once, like, but very inferred.
Oh, right. Yeah, like...
when the Master was taking over, it's like, oh, the President of the United States is gonna make a message, and then it's a very much Barack Obama, and then they just get a black guy to cover his face as everyone's changing to the Master.
Oh, God, like, I remember that fucking scene where basically just, like, they show, like, a close-up of, like, the guy's head, and it looks nothing like Obama, and you just hear, like, some, like, stock, and you just hear, like, some stock audio being like, oh, hello,
oh, yeah.
Americans.
So here we have Joe Simon talking about why they'd bother to put Hitler in the story, and it's like he has a very specific visual look. Everyone can identify with it. They know who that is. And you dress him up as he normally does. Oh, it's Hitler, no problem. Oh, there's our guy, our hero, punching the world's villain in reality. What a great comic! If you were a kid, maybe you'd be interested in reading that. I don't know. Maybe as an American kid, you might. I don't know. Possibly. Maybe.
Well, you see, Hitler is literally Hitler.
Well. Let's take 20 years ago, Osama bin Laden. Let's take if there was a new hero introduced, and on the cover was this hero punching Osama bin Laden, Would a kid want to read that? Maybe. It's possible. It would sell a lot of comics, I'll tell you that, because it's, it's bold. That's on the mind of many American after 9/11. So it's marketing. It's all it is. It's popular. People will identify with this turban guy with the beard.
Merchandising.
Yeah, it's well, that's what it comes down to, making money. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Because we're capitalists. Capitalism is good.
Farmed Heil Hitler salute, of course. I could smell a winner.
Which brings me to reason 2 why they made Captain America punch Hitler. They didn't like Hitler.
Yeah, none of the people do anymore.
Wow, hot take. That's a hot
I find
take.
it so sad that almost nobody in this video uses the photo of Hitler in shorts.
So this is the reason why people should put Trump in their comics as Murdoch.
Apparently.
I already forgot his fucking name.
As your boy Zach says, normal people are people that don't like Hitler. That say they don't like Hitler. SJWs are people that say they don't like Hitler and expect a parade thrown in their honor for not liking Hitler.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody clapped.
And everybody clapped.
I mean, these people constantly want a fucking gold star every time they're like, "Hey, fascism, I don't think it's that good." It's just like, "Oh, what do you want?" Do you want me to fucking fillet you or something? I mean, my God.
It's like the participation trophy mentality. The participation trophy, everyone's a winner mentality. They want to get rewarded for the most menial of things. I woke up today.
I did the minimum work necessary. Give me awards now.
Well,
exactly.
Now that they've become this sort of straw man is saying, I'm a punching Nazi. I'm going to attack the alt-right or what. It's like, do you even know what that is or who those are? Well, they exist. It's like, I'm sure there are some in America that exist. There's all kinds of people that exist. Who are they and where are they? Let's talk
I would also ask, do you even know how to punch?
Oh, dear.
Hey, Smud, funny enough you bring up, the alt-right, because I actually have some really good experience with this, and I actually know what I'm talking about here. So, the alt-right, as lefties on Twitter would like you to pretend exist, isn't real. Just like the alt-right they pretend exist was basically created by Richard Spencer in Charlottesville, who by the way is the most obvious Fed of any kind of Fed who ever fed. Just anyone who believes the meme that Charlottesville was an actual demonstration of the evils of white supremacy in America, they're just dumb. Richard Spencer is a literal con artist who portrays himself as the American Hitler, yet he watches blacks fuck his wife, and he endorses Joe Biden. It's like, this man is a snake oil salesman. He literally had Charlottesville was really just Richard Spencer's like, hey, I'm all about the optics game, man. Just I don't want to I don't want to portray the alt-right as a bad thing. First thing he did was have a bunch of boomers in a room do a fucking Nazi salute and say Heil Trump. This man is a fucking Fed, and people who believe that the alt-right is anything but a LARP from a few thousand people online, they're dumb. I'm just gonna say it. They're just stupid.
Yeah, my knowledge on these political parties or name calling, I just don't we have enough parties in Canada for me to follow that the artificial ones. I'm I don't know what they are, but thanks, because I'm not well equipped to talk about these things, and it's not really my topic of interest. Maybe Glib might rub off on me a few times. Maybe I'll brush up on my vocabulary, but it's out of my purview, so I try not to think about it. But let's just keep going, because this is going to take a while. I don't know if you guys how long you're going to stay here.
Unfortunately, I have to go. Something came up for a little bit. I might be back in a little bit, but I have to go right for the moment.
All right.
I love the topic.
Thanks, Dev.
But thanks for having me on. I'll be back as soon as possible.
Thank you, sir.
Hopefully you're still going.
Okay. See you soon. Okay. So this is Fritz Philogene, again, from a donation. Thank you. Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump were... Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump were in the Baki, the Grappler manga. The reason they were there was to show how the main antagonist could strike fear into the hearts of world leaders. Really? Okay, if you don't know Baki, Baki is a very over-the-top martial arts story.
Yeah.
Like ridiculously over the top. And this
It is.
the character of Baki, his ability is that he's able to sense the genetic potential of every combatant that comes near him as being deadly or like on what level. So he knows how to come up against them. He's just a teenager or whatever. And his dad is this ridiculous over the top muscle man martial artist fellow as well. So,
yeah, just like he's literally called like the world's strongest creature.
Yeah, it's
a human, world's strongest creature.
It's taking the concept of blood sports to a bizarre level, which I can't. Again, I don't pay attention. I just know. I just had to understand what Baki was, and I go, "Oh, okay, I find. Now I get why he's so dangerous." And that's it. Everything else is just bizarre animation with people with muscles defined beyond the concepts that anyone in kinesthesiology would ever think was practical. Like, that's not humanly possible. But hey, if you have 0% body fat, maybe you are just a big muscle mass. I don't know. So
what's kind of the point, Smud? Just like, the author of Baki, just like the guy basically writes and draws it. Just like he draws them as intentionally just like grotesque and muscular to sort of like get across the point that just like these people aren't like people,
right?
Just like they're fucking like a monster, sort of like masquerading like as human beings, kind of. It's more like sort of like a symbolic thing where just like they aren't like actually monsters, but just like but for like regular people, like these guys are like insane. These guys can really like crush your head and just be like, oh, okay, that's pretty easy.
The original anime was kind of like they've redone it. They've done some arc where they get these convicts who are just even more over the top. I tried watching it, but it was like, wow, that's crazy. So people's arms are getting ripped off, and like, okay, that's enough for me. So yes, Baki is one of those extreme things, and yeah, maybe you guys might like that. I don't know. It's not for everyone, but that's fine. Anyway. Let's keep going.
Obviously. Look, Simon and Kirby had zero issues consciously infusing their comics with their political beliefs. For example, Joe Simon used to illustrate magazine covers belittling Hitler, Mussolini, and Stalin. And yeah, Kirby was not exactly a fan of Nazis either, to put it extremely mildly.
Was anyone at the time, aside from maybe the Germans, into the Nazism? I don't... The Japanese, maybe?
There were some fascist elements in other countries as the parties were trying to gain power and influence, but they never really gained anything into the mainstream. They were always a very extreme minority that no one paid any kind of attention to.
Well, I don't know. Like that's not like entirely true. Just like just like there's like a difference between like fascism and like National Socialism. Just like fascism's just sort of like the fascism is more of just like the basic bitch, like a vanilla version, where just like, hey, just
what
strong military, just like, and that's it. Just like plenty of countries at this time did have like fascist governments, like Franco's Spain was technically fascist. Like Mussolini, like he created fascism.
Okay.
Oswald Mosley in Britain was the leader of the fascist, or like the British Union, the leader of like the British Union of Fascists.
You're cutting out a lot.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's just every now and again in the middle of just while you're talking, you'll just cut out, so it's difficult to understand what you're saying.
Yeah, my internet's pretty shit.
But yes, it was a prevalent political ideology throughout the time. But in general, those who saw the Axis powers were generally like, okay, that's something we don't like. And that's, right.
Yeah, a lot of people were like, hey, Hitler invading Poland, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever their military maneuvers were, whether they were attacking Poland or attacking Russia or whomever, even if you didn't like Stalin too much, it's like, yep, that's probably not something that's good going over there.
Probably not.
Earlier he got a job drawing newspaper comic strips at Lincoln Features Syndicate, which basically produced knockoffs of popular comic strips to publications. Socko the Sea Dog. Cyclone is such a rad first name that I think I was trying to make is that Kirby filled every waking hour by drawing an absurd amount of comics in a vast range of genres. But
Jack Kirby always took out time to follow the news and to formulate strong, often prescient opinions. He was the first of his crowd to proclaim that a war against that Hitler fellow was in America's future.
And when the United States did finally enter the war, Jack Kirby went overseas and fought the Nazis firsthand.
Good for him.
As an artist,
I don't know why a lot of people said that America should join the war. Because Hitler was slowly rolling over the rest of Europe, and it was only time before he would start trying to face towards America and other countries. So it's better to bite the bullet now rather than face the music alone later. That was why a lot of people were very much for the war at the time. It wasn't this... It was a mixed opinion, but it wasn't like some kind of visionary, oh my god, this is what no one's thought of before.
Yeah. I mean, that's fucking stupid. Just like, Captain America didn't, like, incite people to war, just like, I mean, it was, yeah, just like, Captain America did have, like, an impact on that, but he didn't fucking, like, compel Americans, just like, every American just like, hey, go to war, kids.
Also, how does this all prove his point that comic books always have been political?
Yeah, like he's just rambling. He's just rambling on about like, hey, Jack Kirby fought Nazis. Well,
he had an opinion which a lot of people had and wasn't really special.
And sure, could this opinion have influenced his making of Captain America and how he portrayed it? Sure. But that doesn't quite prove your point.
Yeah.
I'm just zipping through this just because it's all just anecdotes and references. There's no real explanation.
This man's thesis is like all over the goddamn place.
What?
That you invent your mustache, Daddy.
I also learned in retrospect that it's actually supposed to be pronounced Boond, not Bund, but I already filmed all this stuff and it's too late now. Nazis back then are not like the Nazis of today. They didn't have to insist that they weren't Nazis while still doing and saying Nazi things. No, they just openly supported Nazism. And before widespread knowledge of the Holocaust, it was not uncommon for Americans to show support for the Nazis. In the 1930s, there was a group of pro-Nazi German immigrants known as the Friends of New Germany, who aimed to whip up support for Nazi Germany in America, primarily by publishing pro-Nazi material in German-language newspapers and distributing loads of...
Because, I wanted to speak on this a little bit here. Okay, so he brings up that, like, yeah, they're Nazis, but he also brings up that, like, they didn't know about the Holocaust. That's actually really important because here's a little context for you. Just like, during World War I, America actually had like a very large, like, native German population where just like, almost the entirety of the Midwest was basically just really, really Germanized. We're just like, there were actually like entire like communities out here in the Midwest, which actually only exclusively spoke German. And during World War I, we were fighting against Germany. So it was like, yeah, we should probably stamp this out here. So America basically did whatever it could to basically sort of like suppress the German identity in America at the time. So basically, what this guy is talking about is they were basically a bunch of people who basically felt like their their cultural identity was basically being stripped. And then here comes along Hitler, who basically, basically at the time, the public perception of Hitler before the war was, hey, just like he might be a dictator, but hey, he's at least making the economy good. But when we actually fought Hitler, public sentiment changed drastically.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Holocaust was detailed, most people weren't on board with that, So he's
I definitely remember a lot of things about German Americans being very much against Hitler, especially when the war broke out.
Yeah. But a lot of them, like, you know, before the war, they basically just saw it as sort of just like, hey, just like, you know, our country's finally getting, like, you know, back on its feet again, you know, just like this guy is like portraying it as just like, oh, these evil white racists were supporting Hitler, and they didn't call themselves Nazis, but they were obviously Nazis. It's just like, dude, context, you know.
Well, little history lesson. Thanks about that. This is all knowledge to me. I have no idea what's going on in this history lesson here, but thank you. Let's just keep going because, again, we're not even halfway done. So, Adam Wooford, thank you, sir. The U.S. government was gearing up right after they found out that the Nazis contacted Mexican government and tried to have them join the attack U.S.
I think you're confusing World War I with World War II there.
Yeah, you're definitely confusing the Zimmerman telegram, which was like a...
Because that's what made the Americans join World War I. But what made America join World War II was the Pearl Harbor.
Right.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor.
Let's keep going.
If the Japanese weren't fucking, like, you know, morons, just like, you know, America could have potentially, like, stayed out of the war entirely.
Well, I think was it President Roosevelt, I believe it was, he very much wanted to put America into World War II, but he didn't want to do it in a way which would ruin his public perception. Because there are also a lot of Americans who didn't want anything to do with World War II.
Yeah, you're right. Just like, you know, like, there was like a strong anti-war sentiment like after a World War I, where like a lot of Americans lost their lives. And like, yeah, let's just not do this again, you know. Let's just stay isolationist.
The reason behind Pearl Harbor was the oil embargo or something on Japan because of their treatment of China. And then because of that, they said, oh, well, America has these oil fields down here. We'll just take out their fleet and then just take all their oil fields over down here. They can't do anything about it.
And then they got fucked.
Anti-Semitic around the country. And if all that wasn't bad enough, which it comfortably is, there were signs that many Germans were entering the country illegally, because in America, Nazis may be bad, but immigration is somehow worse. After a few short years, the Friends of New Germany disbanded and rebranded. The German-American Bund was a sequel to the FNG, and like most sequels, it was a stain on history that should have never been made. Except, of course, for Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed.
He's a shaggy Scoob quaking, the whole city shaking.
There was just one small hiccup in their plan to spread pro-Nazi messages throughout the country. The Nazis over in Germany did not approve of this American faction because they thought...
Okay, this guy is sounding more and more like our other resident YouTuber we don't like covering anymore.
Maggie Mayfish.
Well, no, Maggie Mayfish is a little less pedantic. I think Renegade Cut is the style.
Oh, yeah, Renegade Cut.
He seems to just meander about giving us a history lesson, talk about books he's read, and it's like, okay, well, this is... I don't know why he's going through all this effort to talk about a comic book, but let's just speed ahead here.
Hey guys, so I actually got to bounce. Thank you for having me on the show, Smud. I really fucking enjoyed this, and hopefully maybe sometime I can try this again.
Yeah, well, take it easy. Thanks for popping in. I appreciate your comments because, someone who wants to come on who's passionate about a topic, or you recommend a video. Some people actually want to be on with the video, and I can't keep track of you all, so just remind me. And yeah, I'll be happy to bring you on. Thank you very much.
All right, have a great day, guys. And finally, I just want to say this. This guy is a virtue signaling homo. Fuck him and fuck his channel. Bye.
Wow.
Bye.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Let's get Smut demonetized before I leave.
Oh, jeez. Alrighty. Let's get back on this video here, whatever's left of it. Oh, 29 minutes. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Pretty sure it was after a garbage airport called up the creators of Captain America personally and assured them,
"You boys over there are doing a good job. the city of New York will see to it that no harm will come to you.
Okay.
Harm which would not be spared upon the citizens of Coolsville in the groundbreaking documentary film Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters
There's
Unleashed.
no point in this
You get the
humor.
joke.
There is
So,
no point.
Clearly, this image of a U.S. soldier dressed in the American flag, popping Hitler square on the jaw, upset a lot of American Nazis. Shock and surprise. Also good. But Captain America's creators were clever. Yes, this comic book cover does have a lot of explicitly political meaning that just jumps out at you, you'd think. However, there are also more subtle elements molded into
This
the
is
essence
his fourth time
of
he's
Captain
raising this claim.
America. Elements from Simon
Yeah, also
and
noticing that.
Kirby's
What is he doing?
Jewish upbringing, secretly coded.
Is it going to
into
become
Steve
something at the
Rogers.
end?
Part 4. The A stands for truth.
This
A
is
while
really
ago,
fucking
I made a video
irritating.
explaining
Oh my
why
God.
there are so many Superman characters with the letter L in their name.
What is happening?
Lex Luthor, Lois Lane, you get it. Even the symbol on Superman's chest, while it definitely resembles an S, actually represents the Kryptonian house of L. While an outside observer
Oh,
might see this
dear.
S and instinctively believe it stands for Superman, there's more symbolism.
Wasn't that a
hiding-
retcon? More, like,
Yes, it was. I think.
by the films, I think it was, or at least some later comic that wasn't part of the original idea of Superman.
I didn't have to go into the details of the differences between letters and phonetics, okay? I shouldn't have to do that with you guys. But all right, whatever he wants to say about the House of L.
Behind it.
Stand for.
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
In that video, I explained how this element
And that's fucking dumb.
of Superman's mythos likely traces back to his co-creators, Siegel and Schuster, being Jewish and infusing some of their heritage into the character. The fact is,
Wait,
many
in what
early
way?
comic book creators were Jewish because American anti-Semitism affected which jobs Jewish artists could get.
Tell us.
How does the L
what are you talking about?
connect to the Jewish heritage? How does that connect?
Because he couldn't get jobs?
I would also say, how does that... If Jewish people couldn't get jobs, why would they suddenly be able to get jobs making comics?
Also, originally it was just an S. So the Jewish original creator would have just put an... If I remember this correctly, it originally didn't mean the L. So originally it was just an S. So according to him, then there's no Jewish connection because apparently the creator was Jewish but didn't make the L.
There is reasons why there's a symbolism between Moses and Superman, but he hasn't said that yet. He's not talking about that yet. I want to know the idea behind Superman and what he represents in the story.
Yeah, also just because something can be, inspired or reference a certain culture in real life doesn't mean that there's any connection in it for the story.
Oh, right. The original crest of Superman was very small and golden. It wasn't big and red. It was just a simple looking S. So, and it was designed off the circus strongman. When you go to the circus and you see all the crazy looking people, like that was it. The strong dude would lift a lot of weight, and that was it. That was
As an example for my point, the dwarves in Lord of the Rings, Tolkien took a lot of inspiration for their culture from Jewish culture. That doesn't make the dwarves Jews.
right.
And just because they now take inspiration from the L or inspiration from their own culture for like a superhero, even if it was the case, that doesn't mean that there's an actual wouldn't make them Jewish.
Can you imagine if it was like an Italian? Well, obviously the S stands for spaghetti, and it's looks like a spaghetti.
And he punches people with his hands, like the stereotypical Italian.
Yeah, fisticuffs all over the place. It's like what?
Yeah.
Comic books were seen as trash media. At best, they were a stepping stone in a career path that would hopefully lead towards more prestigious illustration work. It was work that was looked down upon by most artists, with very few people sincerely wanting...
Is this guy trying to get the most out of his fine arts degree? Like, what is he doing? He may as well be chopping up some lettuce. Like, what is going on here?
...to work on them.
Well, the rest of his video doesn't have a fucking point, so I doubt this does either.
Open to Jewish people, and much like
But it's a nice history
Captain
lesson,
America
but
is more linked to the heritage of his Jewish creators than many realize. Author Simcha Weinstein discusses the many Jewish elements in Cap's origin story, from wearing a star on his chest during a time when European Jews were being forced to wear stars of their own.
Okay.
Do you know what also has stars? The American flag. Do you know what also has red, white, and blue? The British flag, but also the American flag.
But it's not the Star
Lots
of
of
David.
flags.
It's 5 stars. It's not the Star of David. Quite sure the stars are 5 stars, not 6 points. So anyway, whew.
To Manhattan's Lower East Side, which you'll remember is where many children of Jewish immigrants like Simon and Kirby were raised. But they also explain that in addition to Cap's patriotic appearance, his costume also denotes an allusion to the Golem, a legendary creature from Jewish folklore. Golems are these crude, amorphous beings, typically animated
That's what
from
he's
clods
making?
of earth like mud or clay. Yes, this is my best attempt at sculpting one, and no, I am not taking criticisms at this time, thank you. They're kind of like Clayface from the Batman mythos, and way cooler than this Golem from Pokemon. I mean, why would you ever evolve a Geodude? Geodudes have arms and hands.
There's
and
no point
legs.
to
It's
this.
The perfect Pokemon
Are you retarded?
aesthetic. Every evolution
Shut
of
up.
Geodude makes him objective.
He's just rambling. This is so dumb.
I want to punch him.
This is so stupid.
You
I'm a
can't
geek.
just-
I'm gonna say
Also,
stuff.
has a purpose. Have a point. There are so many ways people have done skits in their videos that they actually have a point. The problem is when their skits have nothing to do with anything. Like, it is just having a skit and being quirky for the sake of having a skit and being quirky. If you're going to have a skit, make a fucking point. There has to be a reason why you're doing something. There is no reason why you're doing anything in this video. You have no point at all.
Okay, here's something. His job was to effect an almost biblical retribution on those who would destroy us. Captain America was an elemental remedy to a primal malevolence. Thank you. Just say that paragraph, and then go into the Golem, and then just don't end like this. Is backwards thinking. This is what Jack Kirby thought, and if you don't know what an elemental remedy was, well, it reminds me of the Jewish idea of the Golem. Yada yada yada. Hey, did you know the 5 star on a captain's chest represents the Star of David, even though the Star of David is 6 points? Maybe. I mean, you can go that route, but start with the actual reference and then build up your argument, not the other way around. It's just so backwards.
Remedy to a primal
struggles to take back his poison needle. The chaos from the skirmish causes him to roll on top of the toxic weapon, killing himself. Cap doesn't interfere.
I would like to kill myself right
clumsiness
now.
will result in his own death, but Captain America does not bother to save him. Bucky asks, why? Why didn't Cap stop Red Skull from accidentally killing himself? Cap responds,
I'm not talking, Bucky.
Captain America is silent, unspeaking, focused solely on vengeance. He stands almost eerily still and calm as he calls in the scene to the FBI before swiftly leaving because his mission is complete. Captain America doesn't stick around to investigate. He doesn't know or care to understand why the Red Skull did what he did. We as readers only find out because of a short epilogue where the FBI wraps up the case and delivers exposition without Cap present. The moment Red Skull died, Cap's work was over. He took off his costume and winged helmet and just relaxed until the next mission. But, aside from the wings that I just mentioned, there is another interesting element on Cap's helmet, a subtle detail. I don't know if you can spot it, but there's a giant letter A on it. Now, you might take this A to stand for America, right? I mean, there's a whole bit in the comics where he's like, well, this A stands for France. But I propose that this letter...
No,
it stands for Austria.
No. This is ridiculous.
...has deeper meaning.
It stands for autism.
According to tradition, a golem is sustained by inscribing the Hebrew word emet upon its forehead.
Oh, dear.
Emet is spelled with the letters Aleph, Mem, and Tav. The first letter, Aleph, is also the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the equivalent of the letter A.
That means
That doesn't make it the letter A.
No, that means so many different things in the Jewish mythos, not just the alphabet. This is a big stretch.
America wears a mask with a white A on his forehead, the very letter needed to empower the golem.
And before you write that comment,
No, it's not the
about
very
how
letter
this
needed to
whole
empower the
portion
golem.
of the video is a massive stretch, we've already gone over how symbols can stand for multiple things. If this guy's S chevron can stand for both Superman and reference the House of El Cret.
Chevron.
But that was a fucking retcon made by the films. That was never part of the original plan of Superman.
Also, Occam's Razor.
Looking S.
Occam's Razor, a guy called Captain America dressed up in American colors with stars and stripes and everything has an A on his head. What does the A most likely stand for?
Okay, if you guys know what a chevron is, a chevron is an inverted V. Or sorry, it is a V. That's a pentagon. Superman's crest. Why did he say chevron? Like, what is... Does this guy's not know geometry? Like, what's happening here? Was he trying to be fancy?
I want 7 chevrons to take me away from this right now.
This is bizarre. Like, I don't know.
I'm making a very geeky Stargate reference right now.
Yeah,
Message coming in.
See,
Patching it through.
See, with Stargate, you know why it's a chevron, right, Shiny?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I don't have to explain it to you. Taker 610. Today's cap fights evil like Kanye on Twitter. Yeah. Kind of they do, yeah. If he's equating himself to Cap, that's kind of strange, but okay. Maybe.
Symbolizing hope for those familiar with Kryptonian culture, then Captain America can do the same thing. The A on Captain America's head can reference both America and also Jewish folklore that Simon and Kirby...
And Alcatraz, and Armenian genocide, and asteroids.
Apple.
Acetaminophen, like pick one. I don't know.
Auschwitz.
Auschwitz.
Oh, jeez.
Auschwitz.
He's a Nazi. Captain America.
He's a German American. What do you mean? Oh boy. I like autism the best. That was my favorite.
Hearing stories about. And this idea adds a deeper meaning to that iconic first cover.
Yes, if you imagine something to mean something else, there is a deeper meaning. Yes, this is true. Use your imagination to find deeper meanings.
This almost reminds me of conspiracy theories where, like, sure, the things kind of match up, but what's most likely?
If you think it's a different name, there's a different meaning. Like, no kidding. Wow. Maybe it's AI. He's really not there. It's just all in your mind. It's a machine. It's a fake person. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Of Captain America, and makes the political messaging even stronger, referencing a mythical protector of Jewish people attacking Hitler.
He's a golem?
But I want to be careful here.
Wasn't that... who's the character that's an actual golem? It's in DC. It's Wonder Woman, right? She's a...
she's made with clay, yeah.
Right.
Patching it through.
Though in some iterations, she's also the daughter of... I can't remember his name.
Athena?
Some god, demon, something.
Yeah, I thought her
God
father,
of Death, was
her
it?
father was Ares, and her mother was like...
Ares.
I don't know. There's a bunch of gods that made her, but she came from clay. That's why she's so powerful or whatever.
Well, no, it again depends on adaptations, but the more commonly one is that she was made of clay.
Okay.
Which is even more confusing. Why, if she was sculpted, would, they think, okay, we make this lady really fat. We give him a really terrible mum body. We give her jeans as well. Why not? I'm also talking about like the really shitty comic book. Obviously not the main ones.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Always, I know you're the guy who likes to lambast Glib a lot, and I thought you were going to talk to him. That's cool. Too many Americans in the room, kind of.
Don't worry, I like doing it.
Yeah, we got Shiny for that. That's true. Okay.
Because I'm not Jewish, and I don't claim to speak for Jewish people or their history.
Oh, here we go.
And I do know that sometimes golem can be used as a derogatory term. For example, in 2016,
Covering all his
a Nazi
bases.
delivered a speech criticizing the mainstream press, which he believes is controlled by Jewish people. In that speech, he said, "Indeed, one wonders if these people are people at all, or instead, soulless golems
I can't even say
animated
anything
by
'cause I
some
keep
dark
lagging.
power to repeat whatever talking point John Oliver stated the night before." And in 2017, the Nazi who said that was famously and hilariously punched in the face.
I'm kind of a symbol.
Oh, hello.
Part 5. Fair and balanced. Or, it's not political, it's common sense.
What?
So why do I mention this?
But the thing is, was it right that he was punched in the face? Obviously not, because they suddenly gained him a bunch of fucking fame. And obviously, the reason why he was punched in the face was not because he was a Nazi, because he looked like a Nazi. And obviously, something you shouldn't be doing is going around assaulting people.
Also, even if he was a Nazi, if he's not doing anything and not attacking you, you have no reason to punch him.
Well, the beautiful thing about America is you're allowed to have whatever opinion and express whatever opinion you've got. It's one of the most fundamental concepts of the Constitution. And for people to react this way, to commit acts of violence, puts you against that idea. The reason why we don't round up a bunch of communists and put them in cages is because we have the First Amendment. And we have this idea of tolerance. And we accept people based on their differences, no matter what their opinion. If their idea is to slaughter the whole country, and they don't lift a finger to do that, this is perfectly acceptable. It's crazy to say things like that, and people will be watching out for you. But if it's just a bunch of words, that's all it is. So people can have all the political or ideological concepts in their head, and that's fine. That's what makes America as beautiful and diverse. Same with Canada to a certain respect. We have slightly different rules. The same idea, though, where tolerance is highly valued. And it's like that in most first world and European countries as well. Very ethnic, very multi-diverse and cultured. Even if there are various racist tones, there's always racist tones in every culture, regardless, because there's always the conservative mindset of, oh, it's always better back in the old days. And that's always going to be present whenever you have old people, okay? Whether you call that racism or whatever, it doesn't really matter. You're always going to have that reminiscence of the past, let's say.
Nostalgia?
Yeah.
Well, I guess like forgetting certain details to make the past seem better than it was. I guess that is kind of nostalgia.
Part of ideology or ideological view, part
Message
melancholy. Yeah, it's part of that.
Patching it through.
That mentality. And there's nothing...
Part in group favor.
Yeah, it's groupthink. It's a whole bunch of things. But you're talking about people who are old, set in their ways. They've never changed their minds because they never had to. So that's usually how it goes. Like I know people who are like, why haven't they killed Trump yet? Like I still have people say that these days in Canada. It's crazy, but that's how they think. Obviously, they don't mean it.
I once had a super long discussion with a guy I know who just found being homosexual the most disgusting thing ever. But apart from opinion where I absolutely disagree, he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life, and he would never hurt anyone. Mm-hmm. He just personally finds it something extremely revolting, and I'm like, fine, you can have that opinion.
Exactly.
I disagree, but as long as he doesn't hurt anyone, it's fine.
Exactly. So we can have all these wonderful love relationships, hate relationships with any other ideas, so long as they remain ideas and not targets.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Tyler Preston, thank you, sir. You know a character that's similar to a golem and is Jewish? Ben Grimm, a.k.a. The Thing. That's a great example, yeah.
But does he have the letter A on his forehead?
Oh. He's part of the Fantastic Four, so no, he'd be having the 4 is like the letter A. Ooh, I don't know.
Ooh.
Yet. Well, he was trending on Twitter again recently after leaked audio from Charlottesville revealed the shocking truth that he's exactly the racist, anti-Semitic Nazi every observant person already knew that he was. But that news breaking was honestly just a coincidence. I was already going to mention him in this video because this punch, which will never not be entertaining to me, drew comparisons.
Why is it entertaining?
I just, people who enjoy people getting hurt. Usually you see like videos on Twitter of like, people falling down and this and that. I get that. But this is something...
There's comedic, like, oh, look, a guy who's trying to do a trick with his bike, he just smashed his balls on a railing. And that's funny. Because
or something that is almost like karma, you do something stupid, you get hurt.
But there is a very scary factor when you're taking enjoyment from someone assaulting someone else purely because they have a wrong way of thinking.
Malicious violence.
Yeah,
when you take it's so fun that somebody maliciously got punched.
Yeah, as much as
I find it so hilarious that this guy's being assaulted.
Yeah, like
it's just so funny and enjoyable.
I love crime.
Yeah. Can you imagine like Boris Johnson getting attacked by some crazy person? Like that would be ridiculous. People would flip out. They'd be like, "What the hell? What's wrong with their Secret Service? Why aren't they protecting this guy? Like, what's going on? How could they let this happen?" So, like, people would go crazy if political figures or other people were attacked. And you don't want to make martyrs. Like, look what happened to Richard Spencer. I don't even know the story of him.
Yeah.
But apparently, he's now this figurehead for whatever. Or else he would have gotten that notoriety. Because what's so big about a person saying they think in nationalism or white national, whatever I don't even know what their philosophy is. Good for him. Carry on, sir. Have a great day. But no, you have to attack him, and everyone gets firebranded to this person's. Oh my God, he's a victim. Yada yada.
Oh yeah.
Yes, because funnily enough, he is a victim of being punched, but now you've just given him a platform because now he's famous for being punched. And so like, oh, that's a horrible thing that someone punched him. Why would they do that? Well done. You've just made someone like Richard Spencer a victim that people are now defending, which they wouldn't have done before.
Yeah. This is shortly good point from chat. Reminder that Richard Spencer voted for Biden.
Yeah.
Big oof.
I have no idea the politics in America, how that works. Why? I mean, I was shown a video last month. You guys showed me of a girl who didn't like the Biden scandal with his son or something, and she seemed like a pretty left-leaning person, but she ended up voting for Trump. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, that's whatever you care about. So I don't.
You guys, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. That entire time I've been getting like ping spikes and stuff. I'm like lost in the matrix over here.
Do you want me to try a different server?
I don't think that's the problem. It's definitely something on my end because it's across the board. Somebody else on the network is having the same issue.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to make sure that I was still coming in at the same time because it would spike to 5,000 ms. I was like, oh shit!
Wow,
people can't hear me when I'm talking, and then I would listen on the track and I would hear like nothing.
All right. Well, hopefully your ISP is loving you right now. Okay.
Yeah, I missed a lot of fun.
Oh, you would have had a lot to say. I think what's his gentleman? Todd popped on and took up a lot of the American.
Yeah, that was fun.
A lot of the American elements of the room. I was like, oh boy, LitDev's not here. Glib is here. We can't hear him, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I have no mouth, but I must scream.
Oh boy. There's a great reference.
So far, it's good. So
by people online, you might remember that even the writer of Captain America at the time got in on this conversation, tweeting about how.
Glib, I'm assuming you heard you know this. Oh my God! It's this amazing thing that Captain America's A doesn't stand for America.
Oh no, he stands for Shalom Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu. Of course, we all know this.
He's Jewish. Oh my God. One of those
Oy vey, we have a Jew beating up Hitler in the comic books, in the funny papers now. It's gonna be great. All the kids are gonna love it. Tell Shmuley, come in, it's time for the gefilte fish. and the comic books. That's what it's like. It's very stereotypical, and it's not fun for me to listen to this guy be like, did you know that A also is Aleph? I'm like, yeah, you know, A is also alphanumeric and has been around since Phoenician times. Like, it's his vowel sound. What are we going to do? Is everything that starts with A going to be, Aleph? Is A-Track the DJ
America,
stands for
the
a
character
golem?
of Captain America is an alpha, and he has always been an alpha. If you look at his head, he has an alpha on his head.
Alpha man. I mean, if the A for America is always going to be an Aleph, then I guess the whole thing is, I guess it's all Jewish.
I don't know. I think Austrian.
All
man would be
roads
pretty
lead
funny.
to Jewish.
Yeah.
You should start calling it Aleph America.
Refused by the idea of punching Nazis in the face. This stance led countless fans of the character to remind him that the superhero he was writing literally debuted by punching arguably the most famous Nazi in the face, Nick.
What do you mean arguably?
Clown.
The debate even sparked a few articles on the subject.
He's a clown because what? Today is difficult, but cheering violence
I
against
got these
speech,
scars.
even of the most detestable, disgusting variety, is not a look that will age well. I agree. I agree with Nick Spencer. I
Yes, same.
This is you do not attack free speech, guys. This is kind of a given.
Yeah. Basically, if you're attacking free speech, then you basically have escalated the situation into a situation where speech is no longer possible. Therefore, persuasion is no longer possible. Diplomacy is no longer possible. And then you're in a violent struggle then.
And
an
American,
most people want to avoid that because it hurts to get hit with bullets.
Because the American who has his First Amendment rights taken away from him still has his second, and you don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's in that order for a reason.
There's a reason.
Give everybody the right to speak. Also, if they can't, give everybody the right to shoot in a militia to protect this Constitution. Because what else? Because who knows if there's going to be a coup?
How do they not learn from the lessons of, oh, look, Richard Spencer's been punched. Oh, look, Richard Spencer has now got a lot of people, he's got so much attention and notoriety. Oh, shit, we've just given him a lot of notoriety and now there's a lot more people supporting him.
I don't think people actually are. I think that community is smaller than people are giving credit because they have so many.
It made him famous and it made him look like a victim.
It made him look like a victim.
It made me small. It made me a small amount of people, but it
made him a CNN contributor.
Before, at least.
But he was already out there trying to get attention by having this Pepe pen and then somebody punch him. Like, how do I know that he didn't? Yeah, but how do I know that? How do I know that he didn't set that up? You know what I mean? Like, it's so bullshit already. Like that whole sector of politics is so dirty that I don't believe in the honesty of it. I don't believe that he's out. Richard Spencer is out here honestly going, you know what? The white race needs to be saved. We need America to be white exclusively. This is what I stand for. I don't think that that's what he's out there for. There's too much ideological subversion going on. And I know that too many of those organizations are honeypots for me to be like, yeah, that's the way forward, ladies and gentlemen. I am all about this, and I need to join up. And Richard Spencer is my Führer. Like, no, nobody really thinks that. He's not. He's there, and it's suspicious that he's there. That's what I think.
Oh, here's a great super chat. Thanks, Dollface. I love this one. Fictional character punching genocidal dictator equals punching real person who says things. Yeah, it's pretty much the equation here.
For saying things.
I'm all for propaganda. I like propaganda, but I like it to be propaganda that's like Captain America, where it's like, yeah, America decided this was the enemy. This is the side. This is how we're playing this game. And therefore we got to villainize them. And they did. But they never like to talk about the Japanese one, do they? These people never go, oh, they're like, oh, it's anti-fascist. It was against Hitler. It's good. See, all the chuds are wrong about politics and stuff. They never go, oh, yeah, it was really good that we had these wide-eyed, slant-eyed caricatures of Asian people. Like, oh, American, I'm gonna kill you. And they never celebrate that. But
there was a
German,
lot of racist iconography.
It's totally fair to make fun of Germans forever for Nazism. And you can't do that for basically almost anything else. I think it's very limited nowadays in video games and modern conflict. It's always the Russians, but it's always like crazy ultra nationalist Russians that have like broken away from the good government. Like everything is compromised like that. So it's you're either fighting Nazis or you're fighting rogue Russians these days. You know, there's too much actual politics in the creation of video games. Like if we want to create a game about America fighting China, do you really think that one of these big companies wants to touch that when they have Tencent as their stockholder? Like that's the real politics in video games, and that's the real problem. Who is going to get the propaganda value of a Call of Duty game? Is it going to be Tencent? Is it going to be Activision Blizzard? Is it going to be the writer? There's value there. So that's the ideological war, and that's really frustrating because we like to think, okay, it's art. It's a clean slate. It's someone, and then that clean slate is then going to be drawn on by a specific person with a vision. It's not going to be a corporate piece of propaganda. But if it is, it needs to be something we can all get behind, not something that's divisive. If it is divisive, it's probably being used against us.
Funny you mentioned Activision Blizzard and Tencent. Those are the three only private companies on the public stock exchange in video games. And they're American.
And
American,
there they are.
And Chinese, yeah.
Chinese are really doing their best because they realize they can't win a straight war with any of their enemies because they don't have the capability of doing that. But they can deploy their soft power everywhere like the KGB used to. That was what Bezmenov was warning. He was basically saying that if soft power is the new power, especially in a time when people think that war and bad 100%. So in a post-Vietnam War, post-Iraq War environment, war is fought through cyber means, through company, through back deals, through blackmail. It's another fresh new Cold War for the digital age, and we're loving it.
So,
hi guys.
Hey, Dollface. I'm not really, good on the whole political front, but thanks for popping in to play. I say you wanted to play devil's advocate. Is that
Slightly. No, I don't agree with his politics, but the idea of like things being political, like that kind of idea of like media being political, or like even when it's like not necessarily like explicitly partisan. I get what he's saying, like when he says that stuff is political. Like I get like the gist of what he's saying.
It's hard to grasp because he rambles on and he's referencing so many things and giving us a history lesson, and we're just like, whoa, what are you trying to say, sir?
I think I get what, like, so I'm trying to like think how to word it here. So like it's easy to see why something like X-Men is political, because it's like you could just look at it non-politically, but I get, like, it's easy to say that's political because it's like, okay, it's kind of a metaphor for like the civil rights movement, and it's kind of like representing the idea of having a minority group.
It's very generalized.
Yeah,
so
but
you can't project that stuff on.
Yeah, but it's like that general idea of, because there's a lot that's taken for granted where it's like, oh well, that's just basic morality. But if it's up for debate, then it is kind of political. Like if there's a element of morality that is debatable, then it's not just like the really, really basic things that you might think are like, oh well, that's just being a good person. But it's like, well, not everyone agrees with that, and so as long as it's debatable, as long as it affects like what policies you think would be good, then that, like, it can still be political.
All right, here is Later Tears. Thanks again. You're a common super chatter. Thanks again. Well, Adolf Hitler was the Chad, okay, and was just misunderstood. LD, you should read the manga Record of Ragnarok. The chapters are free online. All right, let's just not talk about the first part of that. The second,
I think he was
being
I don't think he's being
Yeah,
serious.
the second part, I don't know if it was you, Later Tears, or if it was Lupu or someone in the anime channel recommended that to me. I ended up reading it all, at least what was been written so far. Record of Ragnarok is a story of the bunch of gods are going to destroy humanity. So instead of just destroying them instantly, they're having a competition, and the Valkyrie are now anointing a bunch of people from history, and they're bringing them back to life because they're Einherjar, they're holy warriors that are going to defeat the gods. And it's basically a one-on-one brawl. I think it's based off gods versus man. And it's over the top. No, I wouldn't say as ridiculous as Baki is, because Baki is like taking humanity and just pumping them full of steroids and seeing what happens. Whereas Record of Ragnarok is like fiction with fantasy and a lot of other cool stuff. So like Nikola Tesla is going to fight some god. I'm like, how the hell does that work? I have no idea. But,
that'd be fun.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. They took not Musashi, but the guy who fought Musashi.
Oh, nice. I love that.
And why he's such a great, even better than Musashi, and why he went up against the god of the water, Neptune, I think. One of the gods. There's all these gods versus man. They're very over the top, crazy fights. Like Adam versus, was it Zeus? Yeah, Adam the first human versus Zeus. So just over the top fighting. You might enjoy for like fighting stories. I like the mythos just because there's like the whole pantheon of every religion. You got Indian religion, you got the Greeks, you got the Romans. Just fantastic stuff. Anyway, very Japanese though. So there's obviously some Japanese characters or Japanese heroes. So do I recommend it? If you like fighting, for sure. Taker 610. A Nambian politician is named Adolf Hitler Unona.
Oh yeah, I saw this story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He got elected.
What?
Beast. Yeah. Wow, that is
Jesus.
epic.
I saw the headline. Adolf Hitler got elected in Africa, and I was like, what?
What the
from the race-changing reboots.
Yeah, that he's the Netflix adaptation.
See, I think all of this woke stuff is like diversions and division tactics. So like, I don't think that the majority of the movie-going audience is like racially or sexually or whatever so divided. Like, I never understood how people could say like films or the film business is like excluding certain races or whatever in this era when we have so many good leads. Like, I'll watch Denzel in anything playing anybody. It doesn't matter. I'll just watch Denzel. You know what I mean?
It's just virtue signaling. It's like, how can I be like kind of what is the morality of today, but then like a little bit further in that direction, or like the way they see the winds blowing, and go, how can I be the most moral? Like, how can I look the most moral, you know? It's like, if you look in like the 1600s with the Puritans, it was like, how can I be like the most Christian? And like, oh, well, these Christians, they're not Christian enough. I'm going to be even more Christian than them. But now it's just that the paradigm isn't Christianity. It's like sort of woke, if you will, you know?
It really does feel like a religion for people that have no God anymore. They've like been convinced like atheism and rationale and science is the way to go, but then they didn't know where to go from there. So they needed some sort of like moral order.
There you go.
And that moral order has become guilt.
It's
and
just
shame.
it's a bubble that keeps feeding itself into itself of getting more extreme and more extreme and more extreme over time.
Yeah, it's like just one-upmanship, you know? It's just like, how can I be even more? Yeah.
Well, when you have a bubble of people who aren't listening, so they're not. You have someone who is on the left who is in the bubble. They're not going to listen to anything on the right at all. They're just going to what's inside the bubble. What's inside the bubble? More, extremist SJW beliefs.
Yeah,
so they're going to keep going further into that bubble.
Twitter.
They're going to, and the bubble itself is going to keep going further and further and further away.
Yeah, there was a statistic I saw about Twitter, which was, I think it's like 80% of the tweets are tweeted by like 10% of the users.
Yeah.
And that's basically who these people are. It's like the people who actually use Twitter.
10% of the population or something, or even less than that, posting 10% of the tweets that exist. You know what I mean? Like, it's so minimal.
Yeah, and they're the people who are obsessed with like getting the sort of clout in that group, you know?
Like,
they
so
care
woke.
about it, and they think everyone else cares about it. but really it's just them.
Really, everybody just wants to be left alone and grill, I think, at this point. And I'm all for that. You know, I think humanity is kind of tired as a collective of all this
it's
bullshit.
like, you know, that image where it's like the children holding hands around the world. It's like that, but it's all grills.
Yeah, it's all it's all like it's all
everyone
grills
grilling.
and checking your cell phone and like going on Discord and being like, "What's going on, people? What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing thing. Oh, I like thing. Indiegogo thing."
I can see the
YouTube
Australians
thing.
with this giant spike through like a cow, and you have the Americans with this gigantic BBQ, and then like the Japanese with their hibachis and like all these people.
It's that. What is that clip that LitDev uses where it's like they come into your hobbies and they say, "Oh, well, it's not good enough, and you need to make it better."
You need to make it more. You need to make it more woke. You need to make it more socially acceptable. Why don't you entertain people?
Yeah, they're taking our balls.
Why don't you stop congratulating yourself?
But it is a lot of people just trying to. They make themselves feel better by following this ideology.
Oh, my life is empty. I need to follow
it. They find a purpose in not, getting, going out there, getting a good job, a family, and all this and other. They find purpose and meaning through moral grandstanding.
I will be the most moral busybody of all time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dude, pushing arguably the most famous Nazi in the face, Nick.
Herbert von Himmelschleimer
The debate
Blangen.
even sparked a few articles on the subject, including this one by Snopes, which asked if Captain
Oh my
America's
God,
creators
Snopes.
would punch Nazis.
Yep, that's why I wanted to make this video to address a current event that happened years ago. Look, I make videos very slowly, okay?
Now, hopefully I've already convinced you
I think very slowly, okay?
Research
that Jack Kirby and Joe Simon had no tolerance for Nazis and would have absolutely been on board with beating them up, especially Kirby, who had this to say in an interview.
Were you very political?
You know, I wasn't then. I was very concerned with comics. I was a young man. I was still growing out of the east side. The only real politics I knew.
Sounds like some weird black man trying to be black. Like, what is this? It's not Jack Kirby.
I was Jack Kirby in Harlem, chilling and shit, hanging with my best girl, Letitia.
With the exaggerated swagger of a black teen.
Oh, I love it, yeah. I was reading Miles Morales comics, raising my fist up.
He did have a temper, but it was very rare he had it. Like, it was mostly as a result of his job because he wasn't getting the notoriety and money that he should be granted. But
he's trying to peddle this idea that America was like not too much against the Nazis. Like, oh, it was very popular at the time. And then he's also trying to peddle this notion that, these comic books, they came out and they were going against the grain or something, when their propaganda, just like Disney, which was, the government wanted propaganda to increase recruitment to go fight a war after World War I. This was all a concerted effort. It's not like, oh, the mystical Jewish religion brought us Captain America as a goal to defend the Jews.
It's the fact that they're trying to compare this to being like Orange Man Bad. Like, they're trying to be like actually like parodying like an actual genocidal dictator to a guy who wants a little bit less immigration. Like
Mel Gibson tapped into his...
No, not less immigration,
like
illegal immigration.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, but it's like... Yeah, but it's like, oh, like, I don't know, man. I just kind of think we should maybe secure our borders. Oh my God, you want to kill all the brown people? It's like, no, that's not what I said. So you want to kill all the brown people? Oh my God.
That's why you don't want them crossing the border.
Yeah.
As a proud alt-right leftist of the toxic brood, I personally think that Mel Gibson tapped into his Scottish heritage when he was making that movie. And it was a sign of the times to defend Scotland against those incredibly terrible English, even to this day.
Well, that was Passion of the Christ, right?
Oh yeah, he tapped into the Christian faith just poured out through Mel Gibson when he was making The Passion, and he became a prophet, a saint of the times, and there was symbology in letters.
Well, you have to consider the systemic institutions of systemic institutionalism.
Yes, the systemic institution that is conveniently invisible and simultaneously everywhere.
Oh dear, this is what you guys talk about in America all day. Oh, God.
That's what they talk about in woke class. I think if I were signal to noise ratio, the concept. There's so much noise in politics that the original signal can't really be talked about. Like we can't talk about an issue without them attaching.
That's a fantastic way of putting it.
There's too much noise in the background. We can't have a conversation because there's all these people going like, "What about this? What about that?" And you're like, "Okay, I just wanted to talk about how we're going to deal with the homeless." Yeah, but what about what race they are? Like, it doesn't matter. We just need homeless people off the streets because it's an eyesore. Yeah, but what about?
But the intersectionality of the feminist queer theory.
We need more female-only homeless shelters. It's like, but there's more men that are homeless than women. It's like,
who
no,
gives
but we
a shit
need
about men?
more protection for women,
Homeless
women.
You know what I really want?
Homelessness is homeless.
Homelessness is a gendered problem.
Yeah, homelessness is what is it? Lack of power plus not having a home.
The patriarchy prevents people from having homes. That's why we need to take the state-owned buildings and stuff and turn them into homeless shelter.
No. You see, we changed the definition of homeless, so now men can't be homeless. Checkmate.
Boom. Men temporarily out of housing.
We just redefined homelessness.
Women
got him.
Oppressed. Status.
Homeless rate plummets.
The homeless rate plummets because we redefined it. That's how Soviet works. That's how mafia works.
And all I want for Christmas is a hot dog off the street. It's really for 2020. That's it. Just I want to go downtown and say, hey.
Do you see that one professor that tweeted, "All I want for Christmas is a white genocide"? Did you see that?
What?
Oh, and later on they did a news segment on him.
Stunning and brave. You're stunning.
Later, I don't
why don't
remember
you start
which.
with me specifically? Start the white genocide with me. Let's see what happens.
Later on, I don't remember which news organization it was. They did a news segment on him and talked about how much harassment he was getting and how poor of a victim he was.
Oh, I remember that.
Such a victim.
He just wanted some, white genocide.
I just want white genocide.
I'm dreaming.
And then he talked about how his kids were threatened and everything, and I'm like, and people were answering, well, white genocide also means killing kids, you idiot.
Maybe he just wanted some white apple cider. Maybe we just got the words wrong.
Yeah, I just wanted some white wine with my chicken.
Okay.
Sorry, it was autocorrect. I meant cider.
Anyway, Bogue, Kirby also hated the commies and the gays. Oh, Kirby.
Just like any good red-blooded American.
Yeah, he just hated all his enemies. Doesn't matter who they were.
That's pretty based.
He hates everybody. Just like a good American.
You're not American? Oh, I'm going to shoot you. Okay.
Very based.
If you're not American, you ain't human.
These people are not freaking human.
All right.
Was that if a guy liked Hitler?
What would we say in a society with aliens instead of, "Oh, you're dehumanizing"?
Now, I want you to notice the question and his initial response there. Jack Kirby.
Like, if we lived in a
was
society
asked
with
if he was
aliens, would it
political,
be
and he said,
racist
"No,
to say, like, "Oh, you're
I'd
dehumanizing"?
just like
It's
to
like,
punch
"Oh, what do you think
Nazis."
being human's better than being an alien?"
Jack.
Like, oh.
I do, actually. I am
bother
against
you.
aliens.
Because
Sorry.
you are dead. But that is a political stance. It's a correct one, don't get me wrong.
Oh.
It's a correct one to punch people. Great.
What a bizarre
But just
thing.
because someone said something like, "Oh, I want to punch Nazis," doesn't mean it's okay.
I remember when this dude said that Captain America was a golem, and I was like, "Oh wow, so he's an inhuman monster in folklore." Like, the fuck?
Let's think about this. Let's say we were at war with a country that were a bunch of national socialists or whatever. If that was the idea, you're attacking your enemy because they are your enemy. So naturally, a country at war with another country who are called the X, it would be okay to attack the X because you're at war with them. That's the idea. But not the civilian population. Not the people. This is a weird...
Well, they see them as Nazis, which are the same thing to them.
Yeah, but even the Nazis...
Everyone I don't like is a Nazi.
Were a very specific part of the German political spectrum at the time. They weren't the military. They weren't the Air Force. They weren't the Navy.
Well, it's kind of like if Democrats are in power and then the U.S. goes to war with somewhere, are all of the people in the army Democrats?
No,
Yes.
but here's the
You
thing.
know?
It's like it's like this. It's like the Chinese Communist Party is the government. It's the all-encompassing government, and so there's no dissident, status for people. So when you're looking at their people and you're looking at everything that is going on there, you can't be like, yeah, the average person supports everything that's going on here. They don't have a choice. So you're either a liberator, or you're indifferent, or you feel bad and you can't do anything because of power reasons. But ultimately, all of this stuff is like a force issue. You have this group of people that are forcing their ideology for whatever reason, but they're forcing it, and you have to deal with that with counterforce. And this is one of those methods. This propaganda, is something that I think Hitler, even himself in his own book, said was effective. Our Western propaganda has always been effective because we are trying to flat out say, hey, freedom, you get to do what you want, you get to, make some money, the potential to raise a family, all of the things that regular people value were what we were selling, and we were giving it away. What are they selling? They're trying to sell organization and hierarchies and unelectable, unaccountable governments and stuff like that. So Captain America comes out, and he's a product of the freedom that someone like Jack Kirby was able to embrace and be a part of and create his own version of it. And that's why we win. Because we just take in all of the people that are like, look, I just want to grill. And we become the United States of Grill America. And inside of that United States, we have a lot of different people that know how to do a lot of different things. And I think that that's a huge advantage. Like us having the code talkers was an advantage. I think us having all of these connections with other countries is an advantage that we can play against countries that are trying to basically take other people's lands and destroy their culture. So that's how we win, is through this superior propaganda and through having this, unironically, having the diversity so that we can address many different ideas and fronts from different angles.
That's a good point.
That's the strength of that.
I haven't seen an argument. I haven't seen a debate or a group of people like, okay, you're a left-leaning person who believes in all these extreme values. Let's talk to the average American and have a debate about these ideas and why they don't work or why they should work. I haven't seen that, and I don't think we ever will, because
they're not built out of honesty.
They won't. Yeah, they will not actually sit down and say, "I believe we should do this. I believe we should shoot people because they disagree with me or whatever." Like you'll never. And if you do get that, then these people are nuts, and they'll be seen as the nuts they are. But they should have the capacity to say that in a forum where we can address it and go, "Okay, this is what happened." And some part of America where this debate was held, and that will be the starting point for these discussions. And we don't have that because it's all just a bunch of rhetoric online.
Yes.
Well, nonetheless. Ian from Innuendo Studios made a fantastic video recently that I will link in the description below.
Oh God, remember that one, guys?
Oh.
I do.
What was this one? No, it was I remember now. You got that clip of, that screenshot of the guy Glib, and then you put him as your icon with a cowboy hat.
Yeah, that's the one. Where what's the guy's name?
People.
What was the character's name? Gabe. It was Glib Facsimile.
It was the alt-right.
I really liked the Gabe facility. You have the gun and the hat. It was great, but I also like an adorable, cute little Glib icon.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this was fan art, so I got to use it. But the whole thing,
Botan's work.
Yeah, Botan the man or woman, I don't know, but whatever they are, they're great.
I thought Botan was a kid.
Well, I don't know. Whatever it is, love
Botan
the art.
is
Anyway,
Botan.
But the point is about the Innuendo Studios thing is that this person, this Gabe person, is just like the average person doesn't know much, isn't really involved, just is trying to grill. That's the meme. You know what I mean? It's people that are just trying to grill versus people that are trying to get you to eat the bugs, and that's constantly what I feel like it is. It's like people that are classic authoritarianism versus people that are just like, I think you're smart enough to decide for yourself. Here's my argument. And I know that Smud wants honest arguments so that he can make an informed decision. And the problem is that we have a paradigm where there's a lot of dishonest argumentation going on. I think people should go and watch the Sitch video that covered the Hassan the Huns defund the police apologetics. He's like, because Barack Obama came out and said, "Yeah, maybe we shouldn't, say defund the police because they're people too." And Hassan's like, "You're such a fucking idiot, dude. You're such a fucking idiot. When you say defund the police and someone goes, I don't know what that means. Then you explain it in detail. It's not a stupid phrase. And then Stitch is like, what the fuck? This is crazy, because essentially what you have is you have people that are seeing the basic version of a phrase, which, if you know anything about memetics, it should be as simple, direct, and memorable as possible. Right? So if someone says defund the police, that means, oh, they want to take away my police protection. That's what made gun sales in America go up. That's because people were putting this out there, because then people were rioting and stuff. So the argument that these people put forward, like, we should defund the police, it'll be better for our society, that kind of thing. They then go out and riot and then say Antifa is just an idea, it's not an organization, and that freaks people out. So then all you have to do is step in and go, yeah, I'm going to be rational and normal.
See,
and you can persuade them.
Like where people say that, when they say defund the police, that like they will say that and then literally say that that's not political. That's just basic human rights, or that's just basic human decency, and that there's nothing political about saying defund the police. You know, I've literally seen people like say like, oh, that's not political. What do you mean political? That's not political at all. Like, and it's like,
that is directly a power structure that you're trying to control, so that would be political.
Exactly.
Well, it's I think Sitch was pointing out, and I'm not exactly sure if I'm getting this right. I'm sorry, Sitch, if I'm fucking this up, but he was saying that, or it was Adam Friended. Anyway, one thing I got out of the conversation was they're not into reform. They just want to tear down the system. So they don't want to improve something. They think that it's fundamentally bad. And most people, I don't think, look at the world around them and say, this is all fundamentally bad. That's what someone that is trying to push this stuff dishonestly is trying to do, because they have to convince you that the world is that bad. So everything has to be framed like that.
It seems very utopian to me. It seems very like, oh, well, you see, if we just had social workers and if we just fixed, quote unquote, the underlying problems, and what they mean is like poverty and stuff. And if only nobody was poor, and if only we had, I don't know, good schools, quote unquote, then there would be no crime. There'd be zero crime, and it would just disappear, and you'd have no need for police because everyone would be happy. And it's like,
and then I'd get a genetically modified cat girl, and have, all that bullshit.
Especially the genetically modified cat girl. That's based.
Yes, if you just take enough of other people's money, you can then create programs that will result in utopia. That's the idea.
Money for them programs.
Exactly.
Well, I think we're on the right video when we start having videos they're referencing that we've already covered because of how ridiculous they are, and these guys saying it's a great video. Like, oh, we know exactly where you're coming from. So that was a bonus. Wasn't expecting that. But yeah, we have 20 minutes left. I think we can speed through this.
Yeah, we can finish this.
Speed run! About how communities, like for example the comic book fandom, might view an idea like Cap punching Hitler is good because Hitler was bad as an apolitical statement because everyone in the community already agrees that Hitler was bad. Remember when I made this joke earlier?
Now, I don't want to get too political here, but I think Hitler sucks.
I'd wager none of you saw that as me genuinely making a strong political statement.
Right.
I played as a joke because it just seems so obvious.
It's common sense, and therefore it feels...
It's not common sense. What is your definition of common sense, first off? I always seem to have problems with these people when they say stuff like...
That's a very slippery statement, like, oh, it's just common sense.
Usually they get the idea of sense and knowledge mixed up, like common knowledge, common sense. It's common sense to punch a Nazi. It's like, no, where are you coming from? We know where he's coming from.
It's also with gun laws, they do that all the time. Like, oh, it's just common sense.
Yeah, it's just an assault rifle.
Fascism is incompatible with most people's Western society, based understanding of government and culture. So they're automatically going to be against the guy coming in and going, yeah, I think Germany needs to be everywhere. Everybody, Aryan extraction needs to be of one nation and our race overall. I don't think that's the majority of Western society.
There's what the common sense definition of fascism, but then there's what people like this guy think is fascism.
Oh, the crazy one.
There's like who will call like Trump a fascist and stuff, and Trump supporters, oh, you're a fascist because.
But Do you see how what he's trying to do is he's trying to subtly push you in the direction of the politics that he wants? He's like, you don't understand. You want politics in it. It's just that you want it to be your politics, and it's like, but these are the right politics. It's like, okay.
I think it's kind of like The Boys season 2, like what they did in there, where they sort of had the really really bad guys say really sort of vaguely conservative things, like very like, I think illegal immigration is bad, and then they make the character who says that a very evil person who just wants to randomly commit genocide or something, so they have them say this really pretty mild statement, but then they make them the most evil person ever, so it's like, oh, okay.
Right. I think that people should be taxed a little bit less. Also, punching babies is good. Let's keep Mexican illegals out.
Drop kick orphan babies.
Kick dogs every time you see them.
Yeah, drop kick puppies into orphanages.
Here's a great message. Real Neko girls will work, Glib. Trust the weeb empire. There we go.
Real Neko girls have never been tried. We know this.
This is true. That's your slogan. That's what you should be propagandizing these days. It's like,
get it done, girls.
Go for it. Just do it. Genetics, plastic surgery, we don't care. Just do it.
Just do it.
Politically new. And that's what people mean when they say that a comic book handles politics the right way. They mean that it's uncontroversial within the community.
On the flip side of this
that's not really what it
presenting
means.
ideas in superhero stories like feminism is good or diversity is important, those are considered political statements more than hating Hitler, not because there's anything inherently more political about them, but simply because the community, annoyingly and stubbornly, hasn't reached consensus about these ideas.
It's because it's cringe.
No, that's not it. That's not it at all.
This idea
it's because it's cringe.
Debatable.
No, the issue is that it's not because it's commonly accepted that Hitler is bad, right? We're just saying that because that's a moral statement. That's what people are saying. Comic books are more about morality than they are about politics. But really what it is we don't want you to put your stupid political propaganda in our books that haven't been about that. This is justifying historical revisionism, and I'm not going to stand for that.
It's that scene with all the Marvel women, and it's just cringe. Like it's like at the end of the day, it's just kind of cringe.
It's
like
damaging and antithetical to actually making a good story. You can have a diverse film. That is fine. The problem is when you don't make any of these people fucking characters, when you put it over actually making a good story, when you're actively ruining what came before and fucking everything over, that is the problem.
It's like that scene just feels so out of place, and it just completely ruins the pacing. It's just good. Like it's like takes a moment out of the. Women are great. Did you know that women are great?
It's nonsensical as well, the fact that all the women on the battlefield just happened to be in this one spot at that time to have.
Yeah, it makes it like it's just a really, really stupid, unserious situation.
What purpose does it actually have towards the story other than to be a political message? It doesn't. If you're going to put something to a story, there has to be a reason why it's in the story.
But it's not even like it's not even like
no. There's a reason. There's a reason. What you're trying to say is there has to be a story-based reason that justifies it, and that it's really just propaganda, which is what I was trying to point out before. Is that people are just sick of other people's propaganda in their books that are based on what we already know these characters are about. So when Captain America did the Hail Hydra thing, we were like, "What the fuck are you talking about? That's stupid."
Well, also, I think what you, Glib, said before is important, that Hitler is bad is more of a moral statement than a political statement, and saying feminism is good is at least nowadays, because it's almost more of a political philosophy or a political statement.
Yeah, I think it's just like Hitler is bad is like it's because Hitler is so extreme, like it's a mildly political statement to the extent that there are some people who are going to say, no, he was like totally based, man. But like
totally based.
But like it's so extreme that to the general like paradigm, most people aren't going to be like, well, actually, like, so it's
Well,
so
actually,
extreme that it
Hitler
becomes
built the Autobahn and Volkswagen, so he's good. Like that, again, people saying good or bad, moral argument. It's not his politics. They're not really interested in the politics. If they were, they wouldn't need Hitler specifically. That's the thing. They use Hitler and Nazis all the time as an example because of the reason he's saying. Because we all agree that Hitler is bad as our colloquial.
Well, yeah, I mean,
of course he's bad.
He's the devil of the religion, right? He's the Satan of the woke religion.
And if it's not him, then it's Russian spies. Who else is it now? Who are the bad guys? The next line of bad guys is regular reactionary people to them, because those are the people that are going to say, no, I don't want fully automated luxury communism where I have to eat the bugs and take the estrogen. I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to be tracked everywhere. I don't want social credit shit. They're like, why? What are you, racist? I'm like, I guess I am now. I guess that's the new definition because you keep changing the dictionary like 1984 dictated.
All right.
Yeah. Also, guys, I think I need to head off now. It's getting very late and I need to sleep. But thank you very much for having me on. It was really fun.
No problem. Thanks, Crazy Philosopher. Have yourself a great evening and or morning. We'll talk to you later.
Later.
All right. Super chats, and we'll keep on going. Taker610, punch everyone you don't know they're not Hitler. Well, that's a preemptive strike there on everything you see. I don't know if that's a great idea for friendship, but
you can't be sure who Hitler is. Maybe he's disguised as me or you, so we have to punch everybody.
Oh dear.
It's are you guys familiar with Stone Toss?
Yeah, I love Stone Toss.
I love that the comic where it's the Don Quixote thing, but the windmill is like the Nazi. It's like the swastika windmill.
Yeah. Yeah,
and they're like going towards the windmill, and it's like, there it is. There's the Nazis, and it's just a windmill, but they see it as a swastika.
Oh, you know it. You know, people are just listening to some people that come on, or like things that I say, and they go, "Oh my god, glib fascist smile." I get it. He's the guy.
Oh, yeah,
I found one.
When someone said that you're a fascist, but you were too afraid to call yourself a fascist.
Yeah, that was Twitter, and I was like, no, I called myself Glib Facsimile because I joined the Mauler Discord and needed a Star Wars name, and all I could think of to sum up my feelings was The Force Awakens is a Glib Facsimile was one of the best reviews that I read, and everybody was like, what is a Glib Facsimile? I was like, exactly, that's the perfect combination for me because I'm both glib and this is like a facsimile of my personality. You know what I mean? It's not like I don't go around in public most of the time cracking jokes like this. This is for an audience.
Very disappointed.
I wish. I live in California. I'd get lynched.
See, this is very similar to the chat. Was it Semantic Dragon talked about girls do get it done, which is kind of the joke in season 2 of The Boys.
Oh yeah. Girls get it done. It was the glib slogan that came out of this morning. That was hilarious.
Zach reads, to be honest, Hitler was pretty cringe. I don't know. I guess so. Wasn't around then, but
it's so funny is that like I don't understand how people found him that charismatic because he looks like a goober. You know what I mean? He's up there doing all these hand gestures and shit, and that's true. And I'm like, wow, can you calm down a little bit? Like
he was really just quoting Charlie Chaplin. He was just like, and then he said this, and then he did this, and it was really funny, and I was like, oh no, that's great.
You know what's funny is that in the Great, what is it, the Great Dictator? What's the name of the movie that Charlie Chaplin did when he gives that speech? I love that speech.
Is it just The Dictator? Or is it
The Dictator? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he gives this rousing speech. I'm like, that's the guy that I like want to believe in the moral.
Well,
statement,
I mean,
you know what
I've never seen them in the same room. Like Charlie Chaplin and Hitler, I mean.
Facsimile doesn't mean facts, Chan. It means a.
No, yeah, you were right. The Great Dictator. Yeah, that's what it is.
All right, we got 15 minutes left. I think we can keep going.
Let's finish it off.
Yeah.
Speed run.
Therefore,
Speed run.
Political. And you should stop talking about it because making political arguments, even if they're completely rational and sound, is having an agenda. And having an agenda is ruining the comic book fandom.
No, I have an agenda.
Do you remember that
Everybody has an
article
agenda.
I mentioned about whether or not
Personal
Jack Kirby
agenda.
would punch Nazis? Well, that article annoyingly ends
with a panel from a Captain America comic from the 80s that has Cap saying both Nazis and people against Nazis are equally bad. Why? Neither Jack Kirby nor Joe Simon worked
Don't
on
make
this
you
comic
automatically
in
good if you're
any
against
capacity.
Nazis.
The question of the article is specifically about if Jack Kirby would punch a Nazi, and the answer to that is a profoundly simple, emphatic, and demonstrable yes. The article
Yeah, but
itself
you wouldn't
even has
punch anybody.
source
You look
after
like a
source
pushover.
showing
Like,
that
when-
Jack Kirby
when you're
hated
asking
Nazis.
Jack
he had
Kirby-
no time for Nazis. He called Nazis on
punch anyone.
When you're asking Jack Kirby if he would punch a Nazi, he's thinking of an actual Nazi during the actual war with the actual Nazis, not someone on Twitter who said some mean things. You know, like,
yep.
My word.
Would you attack your enemies? Yes, in a war, that's how it works. I think he could.
Like he's conflating this to like. I'm sure Jack Kirby has some views that if he tweeted them, if he was around like tweeting today, that
Well,
he would be absolutely cancelled.
let's
you
take
know?
What's up with all these homos walking around?
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
On the
Let's-
street.
What's the deal with that?
What's going on here?
What's going on here?
let's-
Eh.
let's
I don't
take-
know what Jack Kirby signs.
Let's take it literal. If there was a POW Nazi, you wouldn't punch him. There's reasons why. So, outside the context of war, would you do that? I don't think.
Would you?
I don't think.
Let
that
me
would
ask you
happen.
this: would you punch Werner von Braun or whatever? Would you punch these Nazi scientists that they got through Operation Paperclip after they defected or whatever?
Right.
What about Vlasov? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many circumstances here, and who cares if you're gonna punch? Like, are you saying that? Is this guy saying that we should promote political violence against people that are fascist? Like, we shouldn't
Why?
even let them have rights.
Why else
to
would they be
speak?
asking this question about a guy they respect, Jack Kirby, who made the X-Men and all this other stuff, Fantastic Four, who was in the war, who did in fact kill their enemies? What would he do? It's like, well, let me think about that. I mean, in what context would he commit violence outside of war? And we know that Kirby was an angry guy, and this and that. But that's like, what exactly were you asking a man who's a military guy or used to be in the war? Like, it's this very odd thing. Like, you imagine asking your average expatriate or veteran, would you attack some bad guys in some country, like just in general? It's like, they'd be like, no, of course not. That's ridiculous. I've discipline. I have training. I have things, how to do things. I listen to my superior commander. We have a strategy. We have tactics. We have all these things in place. Then they would ask, why would I? They would have to ask the question, why would I do this? Why would I act? Why would I commit violence on another man? What's the reason? And it has to be a damn good one, because they would know better. And I don't know if these guys use that as an excuse for their sense of moral superiority, that this guy we respect would think the same way as us, the same way they would say, like, Barack Obama would speak the same way we want them to speak and say the things they want them to say. But it's such a, I mean, would you commit adultery if this were the case? Like, would you do, it's like all these weird criminal actions. Like, yeah, I mean, you could have reasons for this.
Would Jack Kirby sign this girl's tits? Would Jack Kirby eat at McDonald's?
Yeah.
In 2020?
All these theoretical like, just why would you even ask these questions, especially about violence?
Would Jack Kirby like hip hop or dubstep more?
Like, I can only imagine the people who think this way are those who are extremists or those who like going to whatever those crazy riots were this year. Like that mentality.
Which member of BTS would Jack Kirby most like?
What is Jack Kirby's favorite VTuber, and why is it Gargura?
Which member of Friends would Jack Kirby get if he did this quiz on BuzzFeed?
Yeah.
How many Nazis do we know? I don't know any of them. So what the fuck? Like, why are we talking about Nazis? Why don't you talk about
I thought
an
we were all
actual
Nazis.
threat?
I thought this was the Nazi podcast.
We never really
Nazis
saw
aren't
Glib
good enough.
and Hitler in the same room.
Oh, that's not what this was? Oh, I'm in the wrong place then.
Yes, you're in the wrong place.
Oh, damn.
This is the supreme communist anti super chat hour.
Oh, I see.
Whatever. Oh boy.
on their bluffs to up and hang him, and he even killed Nazis personally. And then, after all of that,
in war,
Snopes inexplicably ends with this comic that has absolutely nothing to do with Jack Kirby, but preaches about how Nazis and Nazi protesters are the same. What is he, Namor?
I shan't play favorites, but I'll destroy anyone who interferes with the transportation of food or medicinal supply, no matter for whom they are intended.
Yeah, we get it, Namor. You don't take sides. What a good trait for a protagonist. My point is,
when they stop getting
Snopes here
supplies
is presenting both sides of the argument, even when it doesn't make any logical sense to do so, for the sake of...
Wait. Showing both sides of an argument does not make logical sense? Really? Okay. Why would you ever say that in any kind of dispute?
Because he believes in propaganda over truth.
But what does this comic book character have to do with anything? They just said a certain thing, and then now you're assuming that's, oh, well, what are you? This comic book character? Oh, but this comic book character, but it's like, but you've brought up the comic book character.
It's like he's citing comic books like the way people cite Bible verses. Like he's literally like, but in verse chapter 1, verse whatever, it says this.
Yeah, what would Jack Kirby do? Like,
Our Lord came down
Lord,
to thee, and
our Lord
Captain
Jack
America,
Kirby.
thou did punch the Nazi.
Look, Jack
our
Kirby
prophet
fought in World War II. That means that it's okay to punch Nazis, and also politics and comic books are good, and agendas are good.
But
I'm sure if it was
the context of it being from in war, and just says, "Oh, well, he even killed Nazis." Yes, in war.
But I'm
he
sure
didn't
if
go
it
out
was
into the
something
street
other
and
than
randomly
Minecraft.
start shooting people who he considered to be a Nazi.
Yeah, if it was something other than his politics, he'd have a problem with it. Like, if it was like based politics, that he would be on it instantly and be like, "This is like, oh, this shouldn't be in comics." And this is
but notice how they reference
What would
his
this guy think if we said, "Okay, well, we're just going to go out there and punch people we disagree with"? We're just going to go out there and punch SJWs.
I'm going to go out there and punch every communist in the face because communism is bad and killed hundreds of millions of people, enslaving them. Yeah, don't let them talk. Just punch them wherever you see them because they're communists.
I like the fact that he listed...
That's fair?
Or he posted that cell where it showed, with a frame rather, of a comic from Jack Kirby, and he said, why did they show this completely irrelevant cell where Jack Kirby says exactly what he talks about as the answer to the article of why you shouldn't be punching people? And this guy's getting angry at this idea because Jack Kirby killed Nazis in a war. It's a very strange thing to twist this message when he's actually speaking through Captain America in that instance. Unless I'm wrong, unless that's someone else's comic of Captain America, I could be wrong. But why do you think that blog poster ended with that? I think that's a pretty good answer. Let's just go back. I want to see that article, a little post.
But I'll destroy.
Is a snow called and question are.
So what's he saying?
In your fear and ignorance, you deny reality, rewrite history. I wish I could take you back with me the day we liberated Diebenwald, let you smell the stomach-turning stench of death, let you see the mountains of corpses left behind by the corrupt madmen and murderers you idolize.
Oh, there you go. Damn, that's pretty strong.
So he's attacking both. He's not just doing one, he's doing both.
Yeah, he's morally grandstanding.
Saying they're both wrong.
How grand.
Super grand.
Hang him, and he even killed absolutely nothing to do with Jack Kirby, but preaches about how Nazis and Nazi protesters are the same. What is he, Namor?
I shan't play favorites, but I'll destroy.
We've already watched this, don't need to just go back.
My point is, Snopes here is presenting both sides of the argument, even when it doesn't make any logical sense to do so, for the sake of appearing politically neutral. It's a practice that happens all the dang time in media, because if you don't look like you're being fair and balanced to everyone, then people will accuse you of having a political agenda, as if that's a bad thing.
Yes, Because you should be fair to everyone.
Wow.
How is it good to be unfair to someone?
A journalist should
You're
be
being
biased?
fair to Nazis
What the-
by saying, yeah, they're terrible people, because you're looking at their perspective and it's like, no, that's wrong. Stop it.
So
no, that's bad. Don't do that.
The question
America
is,
didn't fight the Nazis until we were attacked.
Yeah, but-
That's another funny thing. It was like, oh, that's your guys' issue. That's a European issue.
he is asking a question specifically about a certain person, but whether he would do a certain action, and they show it at the end of the hero he represents, who actually did attack a Nazi in his debut role, and then in that same role of the character he created, has this scenario where there are Nazis and anti-whatever Nazis, and he's saying you're both wrong. You're doing something which has long passed. Get over it. It's pretty clear what's happening here, of what the author, the journalist, is trying to say, and this dude is saying, how dare this journalist not pick a side when he's giving an answer to the question. It's not about the side he's choosing. It's about the question of the article, what the title of the article is all about. And I can't, this is the bias of this gentleman right here. And he's thinking, how can this journalist do this? How can he not say exactly what he believes, which is what he thinks is fundamentally right? All because of his hatred of an ideology.
People think that, you can't ever be fair to anything alt-right or right-wing, or kind of the same way some people seem to think that you shouldn't be fair to anything anyone on the left says. It goes both ways. But
no, that's only as a reaction.
No, but because everything's just a reaction. But
who's the one that's coming out here and trying to be censor people?
Like
who's out here saying that we have the only way of talking, Shiny?
Didn't Trump say that violence in video games was causing shootings?
I think he probably.
I don't know what. I don't know. What does that have to do with anything?
Okay,
that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. That has absolutely nothing to do.
I think there are definitely far right people who would censor if they could, but they just don't. I mean, they just don't have that level of influence.
Going to be extremist elements in everything.
Yeah, but the far right.
Stop trying to equate everything, Shiny. Be accurate to reality.
The far right,
okay?
Right now, it does not have the political influence to actually censor people the way that people in charge who are actually have influence in Twitter or Reddit or Facebook have the power to censor people. The Silicon Valley types.
Yeah,
so
they don't have power in.
So practically speaking, people aren't being censored by the far right. Like maybe there's some censorship coming from kind of slightly right where they think certain things should be censored, or for example on Tumblr where it's like, oh, we're gonna start banning nudity and stuff. Like that wasn't really a left-wing censorship where they started saying, oh, we're not gonna not allow porn and stuff on Tumblr. That wasn't really a left-wing thing. That was sort of kind of a conservative thing, but it wasn't a far right thing, because if it was the far right, they'd just be banning like Jews and stuff,
No Jews are allowed to own property. Look, it's not. There's nothing that is in any kind of constitutional American perspective that is there to say let's ban people's speech. That is anti-American, and that's the problem.
I really hit the argument of. The First Amendment is only about the government censoring you. Therefore, it's not a problem that several massive corporations have this huge control over what you.
Well, corporations legally can. Twitter can very much legally say who can be on its platform. It's a private platform
because of Section 230. Only because of Section 230 when they get registered as a publisher.
I'm not talking about the law. I'm talking about I'm saying on a moral basis, it is still a problem that they have that
platform. For example, if I create a Discord server and I have the right to say, no, you're not allowed on here. I'm not allowing you this platform.
Protections.
That's a server. That's not.
But It is a type of platform, and it's just an example. Twitter is just a much bigger platform.
It's only given that because of Section 230. The right that they have to censor people only exists because of a single piece of legislation that gives them protections as a platform. But they're using it as a publisher by saying and discriminating who gets to say what on their platform for political reasons. So that's antithetical to the idea of free speech, especially in the public sphere, because the Constitution wasn't written when the internet was invented. But
I feel like we
Section
should probably
230
move on from this topic because I feel like we're going to get off in a sidetrack then, because this could go on forever. This
Well, we're just reacting to this
little,
gentleman's
thing, I'd
opinion
say.
of this article, which is ridiculous, and I don't think it's. I mean, his bias is clear, and it's just sad that this is what he's trying to do with Jack Kirby because he respects him, but he's doing his name a disservice by thinking he would be violent because of this ridiculous question that people are so enamored with on the left.
Thing. It's not. In fact, having an agenda is what started and reinforced the comic book fandom. Again, Superman solving social issues because people in power wouldn't. Wonder Woman showcasing sexual liberation and feminism. This comic by two Jewish creators, which proudly displayed an embodiment of America fighting Nazis
the virtue signaling is so fucking tiresome.
before the United States entered World War II and sparked outrage from Nazis and sympathizers, sold 1 million copies and encouraged its readers to report Nazi activity. The foundation of the comic book fandom was built by
No, it wasn't.
people with agendas.
Yeah,
Part
personal
6.
agendas. Not all the same agenda that you all have, because you're fucking cultists.
But even then, even if it was founded on a political agenda in terms of telling people to believe this or the other, it doesn't mean it's right. There are so many things which are founded on other things. You could say, I'll try to think of just an example.
Why don't you just entertain people? Why don't you just put your message out there and shut the fuck up and stop trying to pretend like you're better than everybody? This fucking fat slob is trying to tell me what time of day it is, and it's really starting to get on my nerves because it's like, hey, did you know that the Jews are the ones that defeated Hitler in comic books? Like, oh, I'm glad that you reduce everybody to what their fucking identity is. Oh, it's this Jew guy. It's this Jew, and he's defeating Hitler, and they're Nazis, and Nazis are bad, and that's why we need to have more feminism in comic books. Like, fuck off. Just say you like people to express themselves the way that they want to, and let them go. But you can't do that because you do want to restrict speech. You do want to censor people's outlooks. This person would never greenlight a comic book that was like, I'm going to write a comic book about the opposite perspective on an issue because it's interesting to me. So these people believe in thought crime. It's fucking sickening.
He doesn't believe in giving any kind of fair anyone who he deems as the wrong thinkers. You can't be fair to them. You're not allowed to be fair.
Well,
we're not. You should always be fair to everyone, even if it's someone you don't agree with, even if they're wrong. You have to at least hear them out. You have to see where they're coming from, and by the end of it, if you can still very much say no, that's wrong. I've heard you out, and I don't agree at all.
If he changed the title to this of why Captain America comics were always political, he might have a better argument because he's acting as if Jack Kirby is like the be all end all of everything published in America for illustrations and magazine print. It's just a very, very weak argument to make as if he's the beginning, the prime mover of all this comic book industry. Yes, he's a giant in it, but he's not the only character not the only player on the field. It's silly thing to look at it this way. To see this.
Why doesn't he bring up Mouse if he wants to bring up the Holocaust or a Nazi narrative?
Why
doesn't he bring up other comic books that cover the same shit?
That's the first thing I wanted to talk about was Mouse because it's not a political story. Yeah. It's not a political story. It happens in Nazi Germany. But it's not a political story. It involves Nazis. It involves all sorts of other people. But it's basically a family trying to escape the war. It's not about politics per se. There's no political agenda they're addressing. It's just war is horrible. That's it. There's a framed narrative about this guy and his uncle, I think, reminiscing and telling, like, he had a notepad. And he's writing down all his uncle's ideas, I think, and he's making a comic as a result. That's it. It's not about stopping the Nazis or this or that. There's beautiful imagery because it's anthropomorphic. So you have the Danes as these deers, and Canadians are beavers, and I think the Americans are what were they again? Were they some sort of dogs? I can't recall. But very, very entertaining, great, wonderful comic. Nothing to do with politics.
I don't understand why people can't just make what they want to make and have their own personal agenda, because everybody has their own personal agenda. Everybody knows that. Why do we have to have comic books that are pushing your favorite agenda? That's all. That's all we get.
Bo, comic books started with Marvel and DC cringe. Yeah, I know. That's kind of what I was trying to say.
Super cringe.
No, they didn't. Marvel and DC are just the big two. Everything else from America, from Europe, from Africa, from China, from South Korea, from Japan, they have their own culture. And most of the comics I've read are non-political. And I mean like 92% have almost no politics in them whatsoever.
What a fucking douchebag.
Why I do this?
Do we care? Do we care
I
about
know
this?
I joked about this at the beginning of my video.
13 minutes of him gushing about why.
Well, let's hear his motivation.
Oh, God.
Gee, I wonder what his motivation
make
is.
this yearly feature-length video essay because of one
Feature
tweet
length?
by one person. Wow. I made it because I've seen the argument in this tweet time and time again. So this is my overly thorough response.
Overly retarded response, and you should be ashamed. If I were you, I'd probably think about suicide.
Used to handle politics in comics versus how they do now in the modern day, then this is it. I will absolutely grant you that comic book writers today often explicitly infuse politics into their stories. And also, comic book writers back during the dawn of the industry unquestionably created characters and stories with the specific purpose of progressing their political agendas. I'm definitely
What's the
not first
political
person to
agenda?
talk about
Punch
politics
fucking
in
Hitler?
media, and I'm certainly not going to be the last. In fact,
but even theoretically, if they did,
oh no,
it doesn't mean it's right or the thing you should do.
Where did this guy come from?
If I made let's say theoretically, I was a legitimate Nazi. If I go out there and make a comic book, and I'm making a comic book about how we should go commit genocide, is that okay? Oh, suddenly it isn't okay.
It could still be an entertaining story. I mean, like Starship Troopers is still like entertaining, even though it's kind of like fashy. You know, like it's a little bit fashy, but it's still like entertaining. You know, so it's like you might not even realize that that's what they're like someone could be like, this is promoting genocide, and that's the point of it, and you could still like read it or watch it and to be like, okay, it was still an entertaining story, and you can just not think of the politics at all, and it could just still be a good story. And there are a lot of things where it's like, even if I disagree with the politics of the creator, like Watchmen, like with Watchmen, Alan Moore, like he thinks that I can never pronounce it right, Warskatch, like he thinks you're supposed to not like him at all, and you're just not meant to find him likable. And you're supposed to think like, oh, what a dumbass, you know, what a silly bad character. And if you like him, you're a bad person. But like, that doesn't stop me enjoying Watchmen and enjoying the character, you know.
Reviews made a video recently about political cartoons, and it's such a good video that I have no choice but to steal some of his.
You know why Quentin makes a video about the politics of SpongeBob? It's because he's still mentally in the same space he was before. So he makes a fucking politics video about a kid's show. Like, all these people, they don't consume adult media. They don't think like adults. They don't have an adult perspective on responsibility or anything like that. And they're out here lecturing us about our nostalgia to try and revise our own personal history about what we saw, to propagandize their own personal agenda that they want to foist on us so that we all think exactly the same and achieve the exact same boring, blorange, gray utopia that they ask for.
Quentin's video about the politics of SpongeBob, I think I've seen it. I'm pretty sure it's literally just like, well, SpongeBob has a job. That's capitalism.
Wasn't there another video we covered trying to say something about politics in SpongeBob.
Yeah, it's like, oh look, Squidward isn't happy at his job. Capitalism bad. Got him.
Oh boy, Ron Harushin. Damn, Glib, channeling your inner Bakugo. I think that's an anime character. I could be wrong.
That's a My Hero Academia.
Oh yeah,
I like that. I'm gonna do something with that.
I have not
Because
watched
you told
that show.
someone to kill themselves.
I didn't say that. I was very
You said-
specific about my
you
wording.
said it-
I said if I were
was
you,
like,
I would think about killing myself. I would think about.
I would think about it.
I'm
I would
I'm very
imagine.
lawyer-like about this.
Bogue, Starship Troopers is fashy. WTF are you smoking?
Have you not read the book? Like it literally, like I don't know how that like, this isn't a crazy take. Like if you just read the book, look up the guy who wrote it. Like it's pretty explicit.
I have never watched or read Starship Troopers, so I have no comment on it.
Oh, you got to read Heinlein.
Like service guaranteed citizenship? Are you kidding me?
Plato's Republic.
Well, that too. I mean, everyone should be reading that, but that's just my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah.
And that's for this topic. So here we go. Politics were always there. In the comics we read, in the cartoons we watched, and the
Not in all of
movies
them.
we obsessed over. The only thing that changed is that we grew older.
What?
All
What
of
are
us
the politics
collectively
in
grew
Star
older.
Wars? Please tell me the political agenda of A New Hope.
The passage
No.
of time.
Here's the thing. We agree with politics in these movies because they are morally centered in a similar way to us. The politics that people are complaining about now are the politics they consider to be immoral, and thus breaking the moral lessons that make comic book heroes so interesting.
But then I suppose it's kind of becoming semantics on politics.
Oh, they're just
Because
fucking
there's a
destroying the
difference
word.
between morality in something like Star Wars and politics in something like a modern day comic book.
The politics of Star Wars are it's bad that the Empire is bad, and it's bad that the regional governors are taking direct control, and Death Star is bad, and the Sith are bad. If you're trying to control everything, you're bad. It's, again, more about morals than it is about politics. Things that are about politics, there's not very clear morality. It's usually about the actions. It's usually about people's agendas conflicting with each other, which is my problem, because he's saying you're wrong because you do like politics. Politics has always been in there. And I'm like, yeah, but you're missing the point. People hate your politics. What you put forward, people hate. And you're trying to make everything else justify
Message coming in.
your stupid position.
Patch it
Don't
through.
do that. Own up your position. If you have a position that you want in comic books, you're like, I want comics to have more feminism in it. Just say that. Don't say, oh, if people saying they don't want politics, they're wrong. Politics have always been woke. It's like, I see. I see what you're trying to do.
So in the chat, Bogue is talking about Highline and talking about Starship Troopers because of the policies that were outlined in the story. It sounds as if part of it is a fascist ideology where the people who are enlisted have the right to vote and no one else does.
Well, militarism isn't necessarily fascism.
No. But
It's definitely related. Like,
right.
I had this argument with Arch Warhammer and Sargon on EFAP once. I was saying that like it's the movies satirizing elements of fascism, and there may be elements of fascism, like you're saying, that are coincide with what Heinlein was saying. But I think that the governmental structure is against that. I think it's more like Plato's Republic, where there's not all people are equal. All citizens are, citizens have more rights because they've earned them, and society has put that in a position. And I think that we in the modern world want to consider everybody equal. That's the common parlance. We want everybody to have the same rights. Everybody has a voter right. Everybody gets it equal because it's simple that way. Whereas a system that's trying to be superior, like the Starship Troopers system, is antithetical to that notion. Equality comes. You get equality at the expense of superiority. That's what people are stipulating. With that, I don't think it's inherently a fascist type of government.
I want to make a distinction between the book and the movie. The movie is a satire of the book,
right?
And the elements are still there, though. just in a much more quickened format. They cut up a lot. And as Glib was talking about the caste system in Plato's Republic, they do get certain rights, but as soon as you become a silver or gold guardian, he makes no distinction between the two. You lose all of your other rights. So once you get to that level, if you want to, you would have to give up all your property rights and pretty much ownership of the shirt off your back, essentially, to join the military or to become a philosopher king. So that's a whole other discussion I'm not going to get into. But that's like the bronze people are just citizens of the Republic. So
I think there's a thing in people's minds where it's freedom versus hierarchies and organization, and I don't think that it's a moral absolute that creating organizations and hierarchies to structure your society that takes away certain rights from other people is necessarily a bad thing. And if it was, then I think, we should give felons all the same rights as other people, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Glib believes in not everyone not having the right to vote. There we go.
Well,
that's true. Actually, I don't believe that everybody should have the right to vote. 100%, unironic.
The belief of Plato throughout all of his work.
So what you're saying is we should align our society along the lines of the lobsters.
No, not animals. We shouldn't. We're better than animals.
No, the belief of Plato was
we're more complicated.
To have an aristocracy.
Lobsters are very tasty.
It was to have virtue be the dominant factor of who's in charge.
Say that again, Smud. You were saying something profound there.
Regardless of the Republic, most of his teachings, or at least Plato's Socrates, is all about virtue. So when he talks about the noble lie, the people who are the guys in charge, they're bums. They own nothing. They have a communal lifestyle. If they have children, their children are taken away. And all they do is run around like little Socrates trying to dictate what's right and wrong. They're kind of like the big daddy in this big communal group of people running around this small tribe in a village that has walls, and they kick out all the artists, and and they make sure that these philosopher kings and queens run around solving all your minor disputes, which is a fascinating concept, but it's crazy.
They're trying to create a virtuous society and think of the individual as less important than not necessarily the collective, but the culture and the overall existence of the nation state. That's antithetical to modern values.
Exactly.
For most people.
We could make a simple argument like, what if our politicians today weren't allowed to own property or weren't given a paycheck? That would change things dramatically. I don't know how, but it would certainly switch things up. If you could not take money, if you could not influence money, if you had no right over money, it would be an almost useless, if it isn't already, a useless job. So we're not going to go off anymore, but I just wanted to make it clear that, a caste system, Starship Troopers, these are all political different ideologies, especially the military is concerned, and very different from the film. So if you ever want to learn more about the politics of fascism, Gentile is still the number one place to go. Starship Troopers is still under debate as to what Heinlein was trying to say, and people think it's fascist. People think it's not.
I think I think he definitely changed later in life, but I think at the time, it wasn't like he was he wasn't portraying it as I completely disagree with everything I'm writing here.
The spirit.
So clearly, he believed in certain things that he was writing were good, and I think the things in it, the fasci elements, the fascist-like elements are the sort of everything is within the state and everyone is a part of the state and it's all one sort of hierarchical organism.
Right.
Sort of.
There's certainly a lot of nuance there to it. If you don't understand the definition and you don't understand the interpretation, you're never going to see exactly what was written. And it's complicated because you're talking about politics, and politics is always a mess. So
yeah, it is. It is.
Even in fiction. So it's never clearly defined exactly, especially when he's like this giant of science fiction talking about futuristic worlds attacking an enemy where humanity's existence is under question all the time. So don't worry about it. Read the book. Don't watch the film unless you just want to have a good time and watch the film. It's fun.
And the film's still fun as
It's
well.
fun,
But
yeah, it's fun.
It's different.
It's totally different, yeah.
Different thing, yeah.
But that's what made it work as a film because it was entertaining on that satirical level.
It
Anyway,
was probably the right idea for to do as a film.
I would agree. I think that was a smart move, yeah. There's lots of science fiction that cannot translate well to film, but that's
It's better to be like intentionally funny than try to do it serious and then
especially that sort of story, at least with that element. Anyway, all right, guys,
Let's finish this.
Yeah, please.
We understand more of the complexities of the world and therefore began to recognize political ideas reflected in modern media that
Like
we
what?
consume. Meanwhile, the stories we grew up on are still clouded by the nostalgia of when we were too young and naive.
I told you you'd go
recognize
after
the
your
political
nostalgia.
views these stories were always attempting to impart. In a way, when people complain about politics and comics, what they're really longing for is to be naive about the world.
I love it. You want to be a baby again. You want to be a little baby that don't know about the bad man.
Really sad, isn't it?
No,
But
what's sad is that you are talking about
art
Captain
is
America
not
when you're
made
talking
in a
about politics.
cultural vacuum.
Don't you really want to be talking about something else?
This guy's attitude and smile is driving me crazy. Like just this
Yeah, he's
smug
such a
attitude.
smug bitch.
Oh, you just want to go back to where everything was good and bad. It's like, well, no. We read complex comic books. It's not a big deal.
I want to go back to when Watchmen was like trying to deconstruct Batman.
There's plenty of anti-hero comics out there that I love, and they're pretty complicated, so no. And they have rape and destruction of nations and city-states and formations of new cultures, so no. I can deal with a little bit of imperialism.
Well, of maybe these doodles by my 2-year-old nephew, but I would hardly call this art, Carter. You hack. Comics today are political, and comics then were political.
What does that mean?
Because all art is political.
Okay, we're done. We're done. We're done. I'm sorry. Good night, folks. We're done. We're not going any further.
I knew it. I told you he would say it. I told you he would get to that point where he would be like, it's all political. Everything always was. Always will be.
I am sick and tired of this argument.
Always has been.
You may as well be a baker
We've
and say
always
every art is a pastry creation.
Fucking Teletubbies is political,
It's a
guys.
cake. Teletubbies are cake. They're made of sugar for shiny. No, that's the argument. Everything's a confectionery. Everything is a banana. Everything is a medieval sport in real time or some bullshit. Like, okay.
This drawing of a pee-pee that I jerk off to is political.
Well, Glib, you see, you are a PP.
Yay!
I'm just trying to like not get angry at this. How dumb does this guy have to be? Like, what did he do in his childhood? Did he read comic books? Did he have a good time?
No, oh come on. You know, every time that I see somebody, I always think it's so funny. Like, you know how there are people that collect memorabilia for comic books and stuff, and it's like, you know, it's as and Nerdrotic. They're like, I want Batman 1. Let's bid on Batman 1. Yeah, totally. Let's go for it. And that's a real investment and that kind of thing. And then there are people that have a lot of fandom stuff on. And I like to look at these nerd quote unquote YouTube channels and see what kind of memorabilia. Is it something that they bought the game that they knew was going to be popular and they were going to want to talk about, so they have the poster that came with the DVD on the wall? Or do they have something that they actually like wanted to spend money and time on? You know what I mean? There's a huge difference between somebody buying an Amiibo figure because it's popular and they like Zelda because they're a gamer girl, and it's a Gundam doing Gunpla, right?
Look at that back. I said this before. The background, all those comics of the same comic. Like, you obviously didn't. It's not the number one. But obviously he printed that out, or maybe this is a reprint from recent, so it's not as expensive. But why would you buy that many? Or maybe it's not the actual comic. Maybe just printed out the cover and made it look like it's why would you have a shelf with that? What's the point?
It's to show off that it's like, how can I maximize the effect.
Why
I'm
else
trying to
would you-
be a film student and show off how I'm such a big fan of something.
I'm trying to rationalize this entire why he would do that, and I can only think. Look at this one comic I held up, because you could have picked up any comic from the 40s or the 50s, and said, "Hey, here's just nothing to do with politics, about space exploration, or a crazy creature from the deep." That would have been totally. It's just ridiculous. Every book from an entire medium is political. No, not just that. Every medium in art is it's just like, wow. Reducing everything to one influence is ridiculous. So anyway, thanks for. I don't know who recommended this. It might have been Todd in the chat we invited on before. It's possible. I don't remember. There's so many, but I just get tired of these arguments. They're fruitless. They're pointless. They're intellectually dishonest. They're biased, and they're by these smug guys that don't know what they're talking about.
I don't believe in being fair to someone I think has wrong thing.
Yeah, he's a Nazi. Let's attack him. Let's punch him. In fact, let's kill him. In fact, why do we stop there? Let's do a census, find out who thinks this way, and throw him in jail.
Let's get down to business to defeat the Hun.
Did you bring me retards?
With soy faces.
Anyway.
For fun. Yeah, let's do this.
Okay.
Are we finishing this video or are we done
I think
here?
we should finish it off. Yeah, it's getting kind of late, and we're going on to almost 4 hours, and that was more than enough for me to find out this guy is a hack.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I appreciate it.
If you make a YouTube video, don't meander about yourself and your opinion and who you are.
Have a
'cause I don't
point.
care.
Oh, God. 13 minutes? The end of your video? Why did I make this video? For 13 minutes, you're going to give me a 10-minute explanation plus 3 minutes of why you made an hour-long video. That's ridiculous. No one cares what inspired you to do this. It's like Glib. Imagine you doing your review of that show you like.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, I did this on one lofty, dark evening when I was plastered out of my mind on bourbon. And I just felt like, it's like, do we need to know this?
I literally say in my script that I have it all recorded now, finally, I'm just editing it. But in the beginning, I say the reason why I'm making this video is to take apart the story and so we can see all the pieces working together. And I say it at the beginning so that it's like, this is what we're here for. This is what I'm trying to do. I hope that I do a good job. I'm not like trying to wait until the end so I can be like, so South Park episode, what did we learn today? Well, we learned that politics am good and comic book people that don't like politics just are little babies. So like, oh, great. That's what I came for.
All right. Well, I wish I could keep talking, but I feel really defeated here, and it's kind of sad. But that's okay. Tomorrow's a new day. We got work, and we got games to play, and people to talk to, and all that good stuff. So thank you again. Thanks, guys, for coming in. I had some fun with Mr. Dollface, as always. Good to see you.
Hopefully, I wasn't too cringe.
Oh no,
no, you're good. You're good.
We also have a nice diversity of British men on our Smudcast. It's always nice to mix it up because we have enough Americans, and I'm the only Canadian here, so gotta have some motherland brothers chilling out.
Apologies for saying all of these negative things to this man, but there's nothing I hate. There's nothing that arises the will to fight in me more than the sort of passive aggressive soy insulting. You know what I mean? Because it's like you would never say that to my face, like in a way that is like, yeah, you know what, you're wrong and fuck you, basically. I'm like, are you serious? We're not having a conversation then. You know what I mean? This is the kind of nonsense that you hear and you dismiss really quickly. You go, oh wow, another idiot.
Anyone who wants to like jump off a bridge, this would be the kind of mentality of, if I can do it, everyone does it. It's a good idea. Hurt people, hurt yourself, go for it. No, don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt people, guys.
Don't punch people you think are Nazis because they're probably not Nazis. You're probably wrong.
There's
and
a
you're probably
very
a
good
weirdo.
chance they're not. Yeah, you can call them whatever you like, but they're not. They're not. Very good chance they're not. And even if they are, don't do it. That's the lesson from today.
Yeah. The same rights that allow them to be Nazis are the same rights that allow you to be whatever you are. So why don't you just consider that? And why don't you just embrace your country's original constitution? If it needs to be amended, amend it. And I think most people that have tried to create Republican democracies are trying to do the right thing. And if you think that's a problem, well, don't talk about SpongeBob, maybe. Don't talk about Captain America. Go be a part of government.
SpongeBob politics.
Go be the change you want to see.
This is very similar to the arguments we have with people about subjectivity. I mean, there's being, a fact of the matter is one thing, whether you accept it or not, whether you accept the perspective of someone else is a whole other thing. And being convinced of it is another. So you can accept it, the fact that there are facts out there, and then the separate entity is that being convinced of that fact. It's that's an argument to be made. But then the third part is how you treat people who think differently than you and your level of tolerance and respect for that perspective. Those are the three things you need to even begin to have a conversation, and that's after they know the language and the vocabulary of the topic at hand, maybe some philosophers, maybe some books. And I haven't found anyone to have that conversation with, not even with John when he came on, and I was mostly listening for the most part. But you have to get through those hoops before any meaningful discussion about any topic, especially one about violence, even comes close. And if we told this gentleman, you have this thing called the First Amendment. You have laws. You have municipal laws and tort laws that prevent people from committing assault. And this has been going on for thousands of years. Since I think before the Magna Carta, in fact. So to see this level of immaturity is always, it's always sad. Because he seems like a nice guy. He seems like a jolly fellow, a meandering, rambling fellow.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like he seems like one of those guys whose politics makes him a douchebag.
Yeah, he's not going to.
He seems like someone who's very full of himself.
He's not going to punch anyone. There's no way. But he believes in it, which is the problem. So
yes.
Anyway, we've talked enough. I've rambled on enough. Thanks, guys, for listening to me rambles, and everyone else here. Have yourself a great evening. We'll talk to you tomorrow, and keep on voting. Let me just check the docket. I think it was number 3 or number 4 on the Smudcast voting. Keep the suggestions coming. I'm slowly going through. I have a whole list of tabs of videos I have to go through to make sure you guys are okay. Your suggestions work. But keep voting. Come back tomorrow, and we'll see you soon. All right? Good night, everyone.